Welcome back to the Apex Legends Global Series. EMEA had some pop-off moments earlier today with Gaming Gladiators taking the overall victory, but now we turn our attention to North America. And honestly, this might be one of the most important match days in all of North America at Split 2 because we have so many questions. I'm looking at teams like Sentinels, Furia, TSM. You didn't think you'd be saying that name with potentially looking to find themselves in the Split 2 playoffs, but it's all going to start here. I'm Spider Tiff and I'll be your host today, but I could not do it by myself in any way, shape, or form. I want to introduce you to one of the legendary casting members that'll be here today. It's Onset. He may have the script earlier today, and I heard he was potentially going to be leaking it. How you feeling?
I certainly don't for North America. I've got to be honest, Tiff. I'm slightly nervous, and I don't usually get nervous doing this anymore, but I think it's just like the whole situation we find ourselves in with some of the biggest names that we have in Apex and the positions that they find themselves in at this stage of the Pro League. It is do or die. We're almost getting to that point. Even with game days ahead of us for the likes of TSM, for the likes of Furia, it is going to be one of the most important days that we've seen in quite some time. You almost took the words out of my mouth at the start of the show, and I tell you what, I'm nervous. Players are certainly going to be nervous, but it's certainly going to be a lot of fun.
I'm definitely scared as well. I never thought that I would say TSM coming into this match day would be sitting in 18th place, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. Gaskin, welcome in. How you feeling?
Feeling good as always. We get the EMEA shift over to North America. We get to see an entirely different kind of selection of legends. We're going to see composition differences. We're going to see meta differences. It seems like these regions just don't add up, but North America always entertains, always provides some of the best action you're ever going to see here on Play Apex. So I can't wait, Tiff. It's going to be incredible as always.
Ooh, you kind of queued me up for my next thought, right? We kind of wanted to bunker down, talk about what we've seen thus far in Split 2 and this season 16 so far. And I was doing a little bit of math. I was perusing Apex Legends status, and I was like, dude, Gassian, is this for real? Did no one pick Cat, Seer, Valk as a legend composition in Split 1?
They did not. I mean, I think the main changes that we saw coming into Split 2 was, of course, one of the biggest meta shifts when we saw all the legend passives being changed. And the fact that Catalyst can hit that ring console means that she is one of the most important characters to be used. I mean, yeah, okay, we've seen a bit of Rampart as well, but one of the only viable controller legends. We have seen a little bit of Watson, sure. But because that ring console is so important, the beacon information is so huge, you kind of have to have one of those controllers in your composition. I know there's a few that are straying away from that here or there, but that's why we're seeing so much Cat now. Compare that and add that with Seer. And of course, the ultimate, the wall hacks come in. It just is a wombo combo that is just crazy. And it seems like people finally found it out that it was going to be nuts. And that's why we now see an amazing amount of selection.
It's true. In one circle earlier today in the EMEA region, I think I saw 3 Dark Veils go down in that endgame circle, and you start seeing the exhibits pop up, and it's just an all-out chaoticness. For Split 2, 46% Cat, Seer, Valk. That is the pick rate. So far, it has been picked 223 times. So for a legend, Seer, being nerfed a little bit, seems rather supreme on set.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for the Giga Chad comp to come through, and that, of course, is going to be Rampart, Fuse, and Mirage. If anyone runs that, by the way, I am predicting you to win everything forever. It's as simple as that, because that is the ultimate counter pick, even though it is ridiculous to run it in a competitive lobby. But I think, you know, you're looking at legend composition. I still think today, even though we are seeing, I would say, a more established composition in North America than we have previously, among the teams, there's kind of consensus about what people want to run. We're also going to see some teams going back to comfort picks because they haven't had the success so far and maybe haven't got a handle on how these legends interact with each other, and they're just not comfortable with the personality, with the playstyle, whatever it might be. So I think we're also going to see some teams reverting to what's brought them success before.
Ooh, well, I mean, you mentioned comfort picks, so I'd be curious to hear, what do you think we're going to be seeing? I know Hal at one point during scrims was breaking out Wraith on World's Edge. You're kind of seeing them back on Horizon. Any others in particular that you're thinking of?
I think we might see a little bit more Bangalore coming in on Storm Point for some teams. Again, they kind of seem to be a slight veer away from it for whatever reason, but I can see Bangalore certainly coming back into the fore. But I think that's the big one, right? The story is coming into today, a lot of eyes are going to be on TSM, understandably, because they have been nothing short of disappointing. I'm sure if you asked all 3 members plus their coach, Raven, they would say it's not been good enough. And quite simply, it hasn't been good enough so far from them. So going back to a comfort pick where they feel like they can play the way they want to play as players, as well as the way they interact with each other in team fights, I think is a smart thing to do, because something has to change, and it has to change now for them.
Well, I think there's a lot of other teams as well that we could kind of start to ask that question of. And I'm looking at you, Gaskin. Teams like Furia, Luminosity, Oxygen Esports. These are teams that also finding themselves in the same boat as TSM right now.
Yeah, but I think that some of the names you've mentioned there have had better game weeks than TSM, to be quite frank. Like, we've seen a little bit more of positive lights from them at times, and even though they may be in similar positions where they're still kind of scraping around those playoff spots, TSM haven't shown what they're made of. At times, Furia have been at what is close to their peak. At times, Luminosity have showed what they're capable of on the likes of Stormpoint as well, but we've not seen TSM even really close to where they should be, and that's why there's so many kind of question marks around them right now. And it is tough because they were split one playoff champions, right? They are one of the best teams, if not the best team in the world. So kind of what's gone wrong? Will they find their form? I think that's what we're looking at today.
I think that is going to be a very valid question that I would love to see answered here today. But let's cut on over to the regular series standings. Thus far, you can see FaZe at the top. A lot of people probably didn't expect that, but Snipe Down, Phony, Frex, that team has been so dominating. It's been really exciting to see Dark Zero as well, but it's rather close on set.
It's close, and I think it's right that we kind of get the doom and gloom out of the way and we kind of focus on what's happening at the top as well, because FaZe have been absolutely outstanding. What a turnaround it's been for that organization. Obviously, completely different look team with Snipe Down still there, but they've been phenomenal. I had my eyes on Optic. I picked them as one of my teams to watch. I think it was the last game day that I was commentating, and they had a great day, and I think that their consistency is something certainly that's starting to shine through as well, with Dropped really being able to navigate through some of these difficult end zones. Dark Zero been superb as well. I think they've quietly gone about their business. Exit, understandably one of the best teams in the world as well. I think they've got an extra game day on some of the teams around them as well. So Exit going to be in the lobby today, and I'm sure they're going to be looking to consistently perform in the way they have so far this split.
I love that you highlight that because XSET only has 2 game days played and they're within the top 5. So you kind of begged the question. Here's the point, Gaskin. BBB, TSM, both down there alongside Furia, kind of in that mid pack. Now, granted, they're still in the top 20, which will get them an entrance to the regional finals. But if you want to solidify yourself and kind of secure that split 2 playoffs bid, you need to do better. And here is that stepping. It needs to happen today. And I look at BBB and TSM right next to each other, and I'm like, bro, will we get the contest at the wall on Stormpoint? Like, do you do that?
I mean, sometimes you're forced to. Sometimes you can't really back down from a POI, because if you do, where do you go? It's not as simple as just finding another home. Most areas are taken, and that's why there's going to be usually one contest here or there. And these teams are so practiced on these POIs and their rotations from it, you can't really afford to back down as well. So we may well see that contest. Sure, you can kind of split wall to an extent, but it's not fun to split whatsoever. There just isn't enough loot. Maybe you can take the room down below next to the man cannon, but even so, it's going to be a tough fight, and it really could dictate who gets into playoffs out of the 2 of them.
Ooh, I mean, that's kind of a scary thought just thinking about it, but here we go. Split 2 teams that are going to be duking it out today. You're going to see Group A versus Group C, and that name that immediately catches my eye is Exet. Dude, the trio of Nocturnal, Sykes, and Fun, led by Hodsik as their coach, has been so incredibly consistent. I could not imagine a game day where they don't perform well. Granted, they're the ones that actually won the A versus C matchup last meeting. So Gaskin, anyone catching your eye here thus far?
I think that Mark's quite right to point out FaZe. We have to talk about Exet and just how well they've been performing, especially when they played previously in groups A versus C. They were able to top that. Sentinels, I'm waiting for them to maybe show us what they're truly capable of as well. I think that when I saw them move over to this organization, I was very excited for Sentinels to have a roster like this. And even though there have been moments, there has been these promising signs, I still don't think we've seen Sentinels at their very best either.
That's true. I really want to see Rambo just kind of take off. I just feel like every moment that we witnessed that there was a critical play and you have a Valk player at the very end, it's Rambo just flying, just looking so majestic.
We saw him take off at land quite physically, literally jumped in his air. The hair was everywhere. We've got the memes of it as well. And, you know, you need that energy. You need them to get that energy again. And maybe they're just a LAN team, right? But you've got to get there first. And you're going to need some of that energy in online performances too.
All right, so we're asking for it. We need energy for Sentinels. They need to have a pop-off moment today so we can get Rambo and the co back on land. But this is that time where we want to highlight some teams in particular a little bit more. And I'm going to kick it to you, Onset. I want to hear your team to watch.
We've talked about a few teams so far, but one team that we've barely mentioned is going to be BBB. And the reason that I want to talk about these guys is because I feel like they're kind of like this chaos on the map for whatever reason. And I kind of love it, because you're not quite sure what you're going to expect at any point. The last two times, that these groups did match up against each other, they had a great day. They had 18 points overall, third place finish. They won one of those games, which really contributed to that third place finish. But then you have the chaos of what happened in the next game day. It was a little bit of a mess. They were a little bit all over the place, and they only one game, I think, they placed inside of the top 14. So every game they really did struggle to even play Apex Legends, to be honest with you. They really didn't have too much success. But I think that Zach is very underrated as an IGL, not just a player himself. I think he's a very aggressive IGL, and I think sometimes his best calls are the ones where he's backed up immediately by his two teammates. And I think if they do that today, and I think if Zach calls with confidence and they follow through on those calls, they're always going to pick up points because they have great fighting capabilities. They have a good... Zach has a great ability to put them into good positions. And I think the only thing that stops them sometimes is when Zach just second guesses himself for 2 seconds. Is this the right play? Have I put my team in the right position? He's got to be authoritative today. And I think if he does that, the BBB could have another good day.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think that if I move across to a team that I want to watch, I like to focus on teams that won the last time these two groups. I always choose the easiest one to focus on, right? Because if you're looking at A versus C, it was all about XZ. They dominated the last time these two groups were facing up against each other. 76 points, 2 victories, 1 victory on both World's Edge and Storm Point, which I think is one of the key factors in any groups that we have, because you've got to be able to display that you can do it on both of them. But we've heard it from Hodzik, right? They want to be considered the best team in the world, or one of the best teams in the world, and maybe they had been overlooked for too long, or they felt like they'd been overlooked for too long, but maybe we need to start finally calling them one of the best teams in the world, especially with the kind of macro decisions that we're seeing, the rotations that are being called, the zones that we're seeing played. It has been impeccable so far. There has been so few mistakes from a team that not only knows where they want to position themselves, but then when they take those fights, they know exactly when they should be taking risks or shouldn't be taking risks. And even though they may not have been winning every single round that they played in, right? We saw them just missing out to 100 Thieves only a week ago, but they still were finishing in the top 3. They were still getting in second place. These guys who are always going to be up there, they're always going to be a threat. And they're not only going to be a threat in their region, but these guys are going to be a threat on the international and world stage.
You're not lying. They're incredibly consistent. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when they hoist a trophy at some point, and I couldn't be more excited to witness that. But my team to watch is going to be Lanimals. Look, there are so many teams out there, but I have had my eyes on this one because on paper, this team looks fantastic. And I just need to get a moment of silence for Naughty absolutely clutching up in this moment. This was absolutely disgusting. Okay, now that moment of silence is over, it's absolutely disgusting. He goes in there with the wingman, a little pop, pop, pop. Don't chow Naughty. And Naughty tweeted himself today, "This is the biggest day once again of my career. I will not fail y'all or myself." So this team has a lot on their backs. Lou, Alb breaking out the rampart every once in a while. I think the key to success for this team, because they finally got their first map win on that last match day showing, is trust in Lou. Lou is their IGL, and I feel like Alb will have some counter calls in those moments, but I feel when Alb was doing a little bit less counter calling is where they started to pop off, and it's just trust for a little bit, and I feel as if the momentum will carry forward. But regardless, Naughty is an absolute slayer, a good portion of this team, and allowing everyone to succeed. So very, very fun, but all very good teams to watch. This is going to be such an exciting day. Onset, I mean, literally, we said it at the top of the show, but so much is riding on the line for a lot of these players and teams today. You
can pick any team out. You literally can pick any team to look at today, and there is a reason to play for, play better than they ever have. I mean, when Naughty's coming out and he's saying, this is the most important day of my career, and it's halfway through a pro league, that should give you a good idea of where some teams are seeing themselves right now. This isn't like, I'm in a grand finals, you know what I mean? This isn't like, oh, we're in the last day of the season. This is how much it means to them, because people know that time is running out, and people know there's only X amount of points available for them to pick up to qualify for that event. And the worst thing is, for some of these players, they had to watch the Split 1 playoffs at home. They would have been sitting there and going, I want to be there. And then they had a slow start to the Pro League, and all of a sudden the pressure's on them. But I mean, we've talked about keys to success today, and I think one of the biggest things is going to be mentally, you need to stay in every single moment of every single game. It's going to be such a tough lobby. You cannot expect to go into every game and win every game. But if you come out of it with a consistent amount of points, if you make good decisions and you back them up, I think that's going to be what separates the teams today. You can't tilt. It's as simple as that. If you tilt today, the lobby's going to take advantage of you.
I just feel like you completely nailed it. The keys to success are that it's confidence. You heard it in EMEA first. Gaming Gladiators, Leo Gria on the screen during the interview, bringing all those moments together. Let's jump on over to that map schedule and kind of talk about where we will start from and where we'll end on the day. Match number 1, kicking it off, World's Edge for the first 3 maps. Then we'll jump back over to the ever familiar Storm Point to round out the back half of the day. But, you know, we like to give call outs to play Apex in general on the social media channels, and I want to do a fun little celebration, guys, because we did it. 1 million followers on Twitch. A millionaire. I'm a young man. No, I wanted to do that,
you were gonna do that.
We talked about this.
Come on.
I wanted it so bad, and then I realized never again. Never again will I do something of that nature. But guys, oh my gosh, Gasket, I just saw your face. You were just like, no.
You did it in rehearsal. I was like, oh, it's fine. She won't do it when it's live. She's not going to embarrass all 3 of us, is she? But then you just go and do it. But I tell you what, it sounded better live than it did in rehearsal, so I'll give you that.
I'll give you that. And I'll also let you guys take the reign now. Go send it. We got map one underway of an ever daunting match series. Good luck, guys.
This is going to be a stressful 6 games for these teams, Dan, and I've got to be honest, I am genuinely feeling nervous about these games. We want to make sure we get these calls on point. That's how I feel about it, because every single point today is going to matter more than ever, and I'm sure as the story continues, as we wind our way through the weeks, this is the week that a lot of these teams are going to look back on and think, what if? Or they're going to look back and think, this was the week where all of our fortunes changed. You can already see we're live in the lobby. Everyone's got their feet on the floor. I'm going to see Dropping Gaming having a little bit of a contest here over at Dome.
Yeah, so Dome is where we're going to see a potential early fight, and the circle is also heading down towards Dome. So maybe both of these teams might just say, all right, we don't need to have a scrap here, guys. We could probably coexist, and we could just wait for other teams to arrive, and we can work on them together, and we might all be able to get a good amount of points. But no, screw that. We're actually just going to fight. We're not friendly whatsoever.
Yeah, this is just going to be a little bit of dominance being established by one of these teams. However, that door is all of a sudden opening at just the wrong time, but somehow Sleepy Panda is holding off everyone for now. But Team Diverge now start to fall on their backs a little bit, and it looks like DIG should be able to come out on top. They will just about... Actually, excuse me, it's been turned on at the back. It's DIG, excuse me, who do actually win that first fight. So the POI over at Dome, not usually one that we see contested, I would say, Dan. And LG have heard this going down. They might have prepared for this one a little bit, and they're coming over from launch site, and they think, free KP!
Well, also, because of where this ring is going, they've got the ring information, and everyone's going to be heading down towards Dome anyway. Oxygen are also in the vicinity. They're going to be in the area. Everyone is going to be heading here and rotating quickly, because this is a circle that pulls very much to the southeast, all the way down here to Dome, so everyone wants these buildings. Or you can play these eggshells where Oxygen are playing. We saw a very similar circle earlier on in the EMEA region, and actually where Oxygen are right now was one of the best places to play. Of course, the circle can slightly move maybe a little bit more east, and if it does, then Oxygen might struggle. But we're going to see a lot of early rotates from all the teams that are in the southern side.
Now, we've got to keep our eyes on the overall leaderboards today, as well as obviously what's happening in front of us. And we were talking beforehand about how zones are going to have such an influence on this lobby. We know that where the zone's going is a huge part of Apex Legends. We know that teams are going to be happy if they see the zone coming their way. But for the teams who are in that chasing pack, we mentioned the likes of Furia, the likes of Sentinels, TSM, where that zone goes, if you have an opportunity to have priority to get into a good position on that zone, it's not like, oh, cool, we've got zone in this week. It's we need to come out of this with double-digit points at an absolute minimum.
And you talk about teams moving, and you talk about some of the teams to watch. TSM did move very quickly. You can see they're on the southeast side of launch site. They've already made their way, and they will be hunkering down, and they will be staying there for quite some time, it would seem. I don't think they're going to be brave enough to try and commit to Dome, and they also might not be confident it is going to Dome. It depends really on how much information they had, because if they only had a survey beacon to work with, they can only go off the player information rather so than the actual ring information. But just look at everyone arriving. Meat are now coming down. LAN are coming down as well. Native are trying to make their way over. There's going to be a lot of fights happening around launch site and just the areas of Lava Siphon as people try and transition from north to south.
Going to be a very, very tough circle for Xset. But one thing I've always been impressed with, I think, and one of the standout things that's actually overlooked a little bit about how Xset have performed so far this split is wherever the zone is, Xset managed to accumulate points. I'm not saying that, you know, if a zone is right next to them, they're not going to make the most of it. But these kind of zones where they have to travel all the way across World's Edge, it's very rare that you'll see Xset not be inside of those placement points, not pick up a couple of KP and make the most out of a tough rotation for them.
They do seem to always find and wriggle their way into zone. That happens a lot, but we can see now an engagement happening for Lanimals as they try and push their way into the dome areas, but it looks like they're being held out, especially when the crypto EMP goes off. That usually is a sign for you to retreat, because there are going to be a lot of teams that are going to have eyes on after you see that drone go off. Gives you so much information, but there's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, there's like about 7 teams that are outside of that zone 2. So there's been so many early movers, for good reason as well. One of those circles that is a little bit more predictable. But now it's about holding these areas. Wherever you have chosen to try and actually reside for the next, 5 minutes of play, you need to be brave.
Well, here's Team Inters. They're having a fight inside of this tunnel at the moment, and one player has already fallen on his back. It's all up to Jet now. He's going to have to channel a little bit of the Beatles if he wants to get this one done, but it's not going to happen, and Team Inters will be eliminated. They will fall. However, Lanimals, they hear all this fighting going down, and with so many teams coexisting at the moment, you know there's going to be third-party opportunities, and I love the fact that Lanimals transitioned into this third party. They were holding down that awkward area outside of this the Vault Tunnel, and now they managed to get into a position to call their own, hold all of this space down, and also with how quickly they rotated, Dan, getting this loot is massive for them too.
Just another EMP that's going to pee them off a little bit, but certainly teams have moved very quickly. I mean, we see no one in Lava Siphon right now, but it looks like Meat Lovers, they fancy a little bit of this. Everyone's getting aggressive today.
Maggie Ball's going to go in as well, but that's not really going to do too much for them. They wanted to try and put the pressure down. And Meat Lovers, who have had a great split so far in the Pro League. I saw Tech did a little Q&A, and he was saying this is probably one of the highlights of my career so far, but it's not looking too good for them now, because the man who said this is one of the most important days of my career so far is absolutely taking them apart. It's going to be Nortu who gets that entry damage. Lou cleans everything up. Sheila says, good evening, I'm still in this game as well for Albrelelli, and it's going to be Lanimals who destroy Meat and put them straight through the grinder.
Tell you what, when Sheila starts to sing, it is beautiful, as the Lanimals will hold on to this area down by the vault, and now they can start thinking about moving up to Dome. What I was previously saying is no one had actually taken any of the buildings in Lava Siphon. Everyone is committing to the far southeast. No one's just playing it safe and say, okay, maybe we can gatekeep, maybe we can play on the edge. Everyone's going for the ideal spot right now. People want wins. People don't just want an average game. And that's what we were talking about in the pre-show. People need wins. People need points, because suddenly you might find yourself too far behind when you get into match day 6, match day 7, and it can very quickly disappear in front of you, and then your chances of playoffs go down to the regional finals, where you'd have to win on match point or get into those, you know, top 9 positions from points previously. It is not easy to do that when you have to rely on that last one.
Complexity holding down this high ground, overlooking. The guys are just outside of Lava Siphon at the moment. The 2 times on the charge rifle, not exactly what you want, but it'll certainly do a job for you for a looter hit. And Complexity now make their move towards the dome as well. It's not going to be an easy rotation for them whatsoever. They've got Native near them. Meat Lovers still have one player alive, though. I didn't even notice that Fun had managed to get, Fun had actually managed to get out of that position. And not only that, he's come back in, he's picked up a couple of banners, and he might be able to just about have the time to find a respawn beacon and maybe get his teammates back into the game. With everybody already in Dome, this side of the map's pretty quiet at the moment. He might be able to escape.
Again, another one of the benefits of having a Wraith. I mean, we talk about compositions and we talk about the advantages. A Wraith being able to get in and out, still very important. The fact that she can go into the void. Complexity are going to take one of these smaller domes just on the edge. And actually, where this circle is going, it is pulling even closer to Dome furthermore. Launch site is not going to be in the zone at all. So the likes of TSM, who are setting on the southeast of launch site, are going to have to move. Not immediately, of course, because we have Zone 3 information. But once Zone 2 starts to close and then Zone 3 is presented to them, they will very much know they're going to have to make a move.
Very interesting to see Sentinels and Complexity kind of jousting on the outside of the dome at the moment. BBB, one of my teams to watch. Well, it looks like a 2v2 inside of this building. Zach Mazer, he's got the RE45 in his hands as well. Gonna make sure he pops a few shield cells before starting to get aggressive. There's a little bit of a shave of the shields. There's another one as well, and surely they got to push off the back of this. Chaotic is gonna get the knock. He's gonna get the second one as well, and BBB are running a train through this tunnel at the moment and should be able to get the clear wipe. They do indeed. Rise are eliminated, and again, the difference maker down. The RE45. If you can get that care package weapon, you feel so confident in those fights.
Honestly, it is nuts. And of course, with the new changes to passives and the different kind of roles, you can now see what are in those care packages as well. So you can commit to them if you know an RE45 is there, and you can position yourself to say, all right, we will take a risk for this one because we know it's going to be worth it. It's not going to open and us be like, well, we don't really want a Hemlock, for example. If you know the RE45's in there, you better believe you are committing to that. I would certainly probably sell my team out to get an RE45, if I'm completely honest, because that gun is nuts. Yeah, I have.
I've literally seen you do it. I'm like, let's rotate this way, and Dan's like, I'm going to get the RE45. I'm like, okay,
no, you're like, Dan, where are you going? And I just don't tell anyone there's an RE45 there to make sure that I can grab it. But here is TSM. And the reason we want to talk about TSM, Mark, is we are seeing Imperial Hal on that horizon. It is not going to be maybe the catalyst that we're used to seeing for so many of these compositions. Hal wants to go to something that's a little bit more comfortable.
In his own words, and I'm paraphrasing here, I'm fed up of losing 3v3 fights. We need to run a comp where I feel confident in a fight that we have the abilities and we feel comfortable enough with the movement and how our legends kind of interact with each other that we are going to win those 3v3. So that's why you're seeing Hal back on Horizon, the comfort pick. Something that he's extremely comfortable playing and knows how to get the most out of it. Of course, there's been the nerfs to the Q, but the legend's still very strong. It's just you have to work around the Q a little bit different these days, as Xset once again have done what Xset do. Crept their way in towards zone, haven't taken too much damage, but if you look at across those armors, Dan, if a 3v3 breaks out, you got a gold, you got a couple of purples, they're certainly going to be in a position to fight for their lives.
Just a final touch on the horizon as well. In a 3v3 fight, I think it's so important, even with the nerfs, just to be able to take that high ground off of another team. It's another reason why Valkyrie is so important in 3v3s as well, to regain any high ground, to take that advantage, to be able to sometimes even get a bat off can be huge in those engagements. So I completely understand it, but then you lose certain aspects. Obviously, without having the cat on your team, A, you're not going to be able to get the ring console information, and B, in those final circles, you don't have the advantages of the Dark Veil. So it's going to be really interesting. We do have a lot of legend selection throughout this lobby today, by the way. We've got Mad Maggie, we've got Lobo, we've got Rampart, Horizon, Bang, Watson, Crypto. I can keep going. We've got Wraith, Catalyst, Valkyrie, Seer. We have so much. Now, this is not what we saw typically in North America. It was more kind of similar in certain areas of these groups for North America. This looks like more like a Mia from what we're seeing in terms of variety. But as we have seen in previous weeks, we start maybe on matches 1 and 2 where people are experimenting a little bit. And then we get further into matches 3 onward. Teams start to then pick legend selection, which is maybe a little bit close to home.
Well, it looks like Xset are trying to plan their next move, and Nocturnal has been almost flawless in some of his calls and the way he's navigated through traffic in these busy zones. 15 squads still remaining, by the way, with 1 minute and 15 seconds left on this zone close. And he's going to be tested once again here, as is Phony and as are FaZe in the way that they want to approach things. They've only just left a Lava Siphon. They are one of the last teams to approach where this zone is going to be going from the northern side of World's Edge. And this is going to be a really, really tough rotation for them to make here.
I think all the teams who don't currently find themselves in Dome are going to have a tough time, because Dome is where the party's going to be for this final circle. We've got maybe about 6 teams that are already in Dome. Everyone else is going to have to fight just to get onto the edge. And that means you have a decision to make. Do we actually want to try and go for one of these risky plays and try and take one of these priority positions? Or do we take some fights? Do we look to get some KP? Do we accept that this is an unwinnable game? It is a very tough decision to make as an IGL to say, guys, I don't think we can really win this game from this position. Let's just do our best to take fights, get some KP, and who knows, maybe a miracle will arrive afterwards. But we'll have to see what teams try and do who are on the edge, because we got 15 seconds and then this next circle's closing.
Well, speaking of miracles and almost deja vu, Meat Lovers managed to get all players back onto World's Edge. All 3 of them are now inside of the Vault Tunnel where that fight took place. And guess who's having a little look and a little poke and holding them out? That's going to be Lanimals. So it's almost like these two teams are kind of having their own private game at the moment, the 3v3 in and around that vault tunnel. FaZe, though, they've got some decisions to make here, Dan.
Yeah, where do you go? I mean, I guess this is going to be a skyward dive over the top, and then you just see the lay of the land. Because if you try and force yourself through tunnel at this point, it is not going to be an enjoyable experience. You'd have to imagine skyward dive comes now, so you don't get tickled by the red too much. Where does FaZe go? I'm looking at the overhead. Maybe you could take some of the rocks between the lava just on the northwest side of Dome, but even that is not going to be the easiest of landings. This is going to be a rough one as Snipe Down goes down. It's going to be Frex and Phony just having to fight this as a 2.
Fun just cuts him down out of the skies, and now FaZe have to try and solidify a position just to reset here. But Xset are on their tails. They're trying to hunt down these KP, even though Phony's throwing down everything to try and stay alive. It's not looking too good. BBB, by the way, were eliminated as well while all of this fighting started to go down. Nocturnal has managed to pick up the kill onto Frex as well. So Xset are picking up the pieces, and this is why they're so good, Dan. They just see opportunities, and they don't have to be asked twice to push.
Well, TSM have had to move out of launch site, and they said they want to win 3v3s. They are in one against Native at the moment. It looks like they're doing pretty well with the damage. Verholz has taken a lot, but Native Gaming go down. So TSM win the first engagement on this composition that we were talking about, and it looks like they should be able to reset here.
Meat Lovers trying to get the flank onto Xset as well. You've seen the portal going down. They've decided they want to approach this zone from the south as well, but Zainu's going to take quite a bit of damage. There's the EMP coming in as well, and that's going to cost Fun his life. Sykes is trying to get to his teammate now, just to look to maybe rest, look to use that knockdown shield to elongate this fight, but this is a rough position here for Xset.
It's a rough position for about 8 teams of the 13 right now, because in 45 seconds they're all going to have to move. Nocturnal, the last remaining player, should be able to get a shield swap, so at least he's got a chance to make a last-ditch effort to just stay alive, maybe get into the circle, and potentially get some extra placement points. But TSM making their way over. They've heard all of this commotion, and actually they've just destroyed tech from Meat Lovers, and TSM might push up on this because of it.
Yeah, it should push up on this, you would imagine. You can see there's a portal down as well, which might elongate this fight for a little bit. But Imperial Howard, this 30-30 repeater, by the way, he's doing some serious damage to this lobby. How currently has 5 kills to his name. I was about to say 4 before that one got converted. And TSM, a very strong start. However, placement points has now got to be a priority for them. Complexity eliminated in the meantime. 12 squads remaining. TSM, Valk ult into the heavens. We know what happened last time we saw TSM in the heavens.
So where do you go? I mean, the eggshells are currently taken. Most of the dome building is taken as well. You could take a direct fight if you want to go up against any of these teams on the eggshells. And it looks like that might be TSM's decision, is to play it just roughly on the edge here. But as we jump in to TSM's fight, let's jump into a listening as well and see how it's going down.
He's fresh, he's fresh.
He's 1 HP, I can't see him.
Be careful, nobody comes here.
Yeah, I have 50 light.
He grabbed a purple swap. What?
Purple.
Can you guys hit a shot? Let's get over here. I think they're inside,
Do you ult how we kill us?
They're inside. No, I need light before we fight.
I need
30 bullets.
Bro.
I dropped T60, I have 120 double light. We need to clear out this south side.
Yeah, I'm looking.
Just wait. I don't even think anyone's over here.
Just the team in the back behind the truck, that's it.
I have no more cells, but... Fuck team, we can win the game. Okay. We want to do that.
Get married. Yeah, we do. I have no bats.
Here, I can drop you bats. I need cells. I have 0.
I have 7. I'm dropping you 3.
I don't know when the right time is to kill this team. They're in the buildings in front of us. I don't want to get mirrored either. But this is the winning play. We kill the truck team to win the game.
Truck us charge.
We have 30 seconds.
I'm walking forward.
We have 20 seconds. At 21, Evan, slow down.
We have
to wait. We have to wait.
Well, as we jump out of the listening here, Dan, and into the game, thank you for WD Black for bringing us that listening. Of course, TSM are looking dangerous right now.
Yeah, and you heard it. If we kill the truck team, we can win this game. It was the position that I was talking about where we saw in EMEA earlier. If you can hold that truck, if you can manage to just bully other teams in that position, you get such an advantage with this final circle, because you can then be the last team to enter the fight with all the teams that are still going to be within Dome. But there's still a lot to do. Still 8 squads remaining, and one of them is Tripods. Tripods who maybe haven't necessarily shown us what they're truly made of yet this season, but they still have a chance to make something of this game and potentially have a big points total, being in the top 8 so far.
Yeah, still can have certainly a big say on the lobby. It's going to be Sentinels versus TSM. There's the black hole. There's Hal using that grav lift to get up into the skies and going to force out the Seer ult as well. So now you can see the Sentinels have used a lot of utility to hold off this push from TSM. Question is, does Rep still have the exhibit available? Does he have the Seer ultimate that he can throw down to force this fight now onto Sentinels?
Also, you've always got the option of going over the Dark Veil with Hal being on horizon. One of the benefits they are going to have about this composition, but they are just waiting this Dark Veil out right now. But they need to move soon because they are running out of space. So here we go. Sen, they're going to hold off. There is the exhibit that you were talking about, and the fight's going to ensue.
Oh my goodness! Verhouse with the spray, and that's going to create all sorts of an opening, but he gets cut down as well. Couple of players getting traded aside, but it's looking like TSM will come out on top of this fight. TSM will get the reset. They will be safe for now. In the meantime, Fade's eliminated. Sentinels, like we just saw, eliminated as well. And Tripods, as we go back in towards Dome, taking a lot of damage up on those silos.
So much damage, and that's probably the smallest Dark Veil I've ever seen as Tripods get eliminated. Quite ironic, really, as 4 squads now are going to be alive. LTC, one of those within Dome. You've also got Xenox and Crust. They're in a good position right now as Oxygen, who have been here from the very start, ever since that third party. But then on the outside, we know TSM, they won that fight on Truck, and this is what I was talking about. They can try and be the last team to enter. Ideally, in a circle like this, you'd probably want there to only be 3 teams. The fact there's 4 teams could go against TSM here. They might be focused if they get spotted of where they are.
Might be focused, and now you're looking at the comp and you're thinking, well, where's our rotational tool here? We don't have a catalyst to block this line of sight. We don't have the ability to portal in, and every single composition that you see now in Apex Legends, there's always positives in some circumstances, but there's always the drawbacks as well. So we're going to have to see how they approach this. Who's going to have ultimates ready? Are they going to be using a grav lift just to try and take to the skies? Well, the answer is they'll take to the skies, but not with the grav lift. It's going to be a Valkyrie up into the heavens once more. Are they going to try and take the silos? There's one player up here. The question is, can Verhulst and TSM find a comfy home? Yes, they can.
They can, but we did just see Tripods get deleted from up here because they were just completely naded, but maybe you're hoping that utility's been used. It looks like TSM have stabilized as long as Reps can get the bat off, which he will, and okay, game on. TSM make sure they don't get focused. And this is going to be very difficult for all of the teams to try and navigate this one. Remember, Dark Veils would be important, but SCS don't have Dark Veil either. They've got the Watson instead, as now damage going down for all teams.
Oh, Cross is taking a lot of damage here. He's got the Kraber in his hands. The question is he going to get the pull the trigger? LTC Esports eliminated. We're down to just 3 now. And all of a sudden, TSM with their backs against the wall remind us that this is where they do their best work in Apex Legends. They are destroying the lobby as SCS are eliminated and we're down to 2.
And surely at this point it is just inevitable. There is 1 team left, but are they even of full health? Is there even a 3? I think it's a 3 versus 1. It's TSM. They do it. They show us what they're made of. The questions were asked, and boy, have they given us an answer.
Well, it's still a long way to go today. It is a long, long way to go. But my word, TSM fans will finally have something to cheer about, because that wasn't just a win, Dan. They just decimated the lobby. The amount of KP they just picked up is you could not prescribe a better tonic or medicine, whatever you want to call it, to TSM right now to put them in the good place mentally to really move on from here.
15 kills alongside a victory. I mean, TSM, that's what they needed, right? We were saying, or I was personally saying, I don't think we've seen TSM at their peak, and I still don't think that is their peak, but that is certainly close to. That is the TSM that we would expect to see, but it was how they navigated it. We had the listening as well. They knew exactly what they needed to do. They got in a rough position where they were going to have to Valcult, but they analyzed what was happening when the Valcult was in the air, and they saw there was a space available, but it was a 3v3 fights. They said they were fed up of winning fights. They've got the horizon. They've got the ability to win those engagements, and yes, as you said, a long way to go, and we have seen them do this before, have a good game 1 and then fall apart. But I think this is a different look, TSM. I think they're out for blood here today.
Well, their backs against the wall. They perform. Tiff will bring you back in because there's a lot to talk about. And one of those stories about TSM has chapters started pretty well. The book's looking pretty good if you're a TSM fan.
Yeah, that was dominating. There are many words that I could use to describe that performance. It was tantalizing. It was extreme. It was necessary. Everything that was needed to be done by TSM was done in dominating fashion there. And I think you brought up a very valid point as we kind of roll through some of those match highlights. Gaskin, yes, they won the first opening match of the last match day series and then kind of started to fall. But this was different. This was a champion team coming back to show everything that they were made of. I'm thinking like Endeavor claiming their #1 legend spot in MHA. Like, this was insane.
This was what a 27-point game. I mean, we've seen teams win with 60 points in a game week, and they've already pretty much got halfway there. Like, this is everything that you could have asked for. The Doctor Order it, and TSM, they've supplied it, but now they just need to follow up. I imagine, though, that this is going to give them so much confidence. I mean, sure, a victory just a couple of weeks ago that you were talking about in Game 1 would have given them similar confidence, but not in this way. They were not just winning the game, they were destroying everyone in front of their path. They were winning engagements, they were running into fights knowing that they were going to win, and I think that's when TSM has always been at their very best. There's been doubt in the mind of Hal. Hal has been doubting his calls, he's been doubting his gameplay, he's switched over to now Horizon so he could be comfortable. Once you get the boys comfortable, they're gonna fry, and that has happened just here.
Let them cook. I mean, you're right. We saw him on Catalyst. We saw him jump over to Wraith, but it was this second Valkylt to the top that gave me a mini heart attack. I was not sure that that was going to go. And then our observers, they cut to a shot of SCS looking down a Kraber scope at TSM. Match 1 results on your screen. The math was right from Gaskin, of no surprise, by the way. 15 eliminations for TSM, 12 placement points, 27 total. And it's great to see Oxygen Esports up there as well. I want to give a huge shout out to them. They have been on a massive journey here in Split 2, and to see them finally up in the top 3, that's got to feel confident for them as well as SCS. But let's go to the second page. Names like Exet, really consistent team, maybe gone out a little too soon, but I think it was Nocturnal that was literally putting on an absolute show with the movement while the TSM boys were trying to eliminate him on set.
Yeah, I've seen Dan hit those kind of moves in a bar after a few, and let me tell you, that I didn't realize that his hips could move like that, but it's a very good impression of him from Nocturnal. But I think the one thing that I want to relate to is, one thing I said right at the start of that game is, like, if you have priority to zone in this lobby today, you have to take advantage of it. You cannot have a 4 or 5 point game. It has to be a double-digit game. TSM got good priority to that zone. The most impressive thing was they didn't read the zone perfectly. They wanted to wrap in maybe to that dome a little bit earlier, but having got into a good position, they made the most of it. Now the question is for the rest of the lobby, especially that pack, which is sort of around 15th to 18th that we were talking about in the build-up to game number 1. If you get a zone in your way, can you do what TSM just did?
That is the question. That is the question. And we will have to see. Can you do what TSM just did? We're going to cut to a quick break. When we come back, Gaskin and I will be taking you through map number 2. Onset's going to be taking a little peek at what we call his little script book. I'm curious to see, because, you know, you never know what's going to happen here. It's a wild day.
WD Black, the official storage partner of the Apex Legends Global Series.
Welcome back to the Apex Legends Global Series. Coming off of Map 1, TSM, a dominating victory. Onset asked the questions, can they continue? Can they keep that momentum? And if you get zone priority, can you do the same? Well, a lot of answers that we would love to see, but we are carrying it on. It's going to be Gaskin and I bringing you to map number 2.
Very excited for this one, and again, the circle's going to make a huge difference. I mean, you saw Xset, they struggled, but they had one of the most treacherous journeys across World's Edge. It was never going to go well for them with how far they had to go from the northwest all the way to the southeast. One of the most difficult journeys they could have asked for, but I'm just so impressed, still taken aback from that TSM victory. This is what I was talking about right in the pre-show, Tiff, when you were mentioning the likes of Luminosity, the likes of Furia. We've seen them have like pretty good games, like close to their best, but we have not seen TSM do that so far this split. Finally, they seem to be comfortable, but now they need to find some consistency here. They need to take this momentum and make sure they can actually get some more points on the board and finish in the top 3, if not just win today, to make sure they have a good chance at playoffs.
Yeah, thinking back to when we got to talk to Snipe Down on the broadcast, like this is going to circle back, I promise, while we get a good look at that center zone and some of those contests that are happening with Drop In Gaming, the contest at Dome. And look at this, Stomp is on the rooftop trying to get a cheeky LOS so they can eliminate the team that they are basically kind of perched on top of. JQ trying to hit a shield, but oh, when you get the piercing spikes that come through the door, there's nothing worse than that.
I remember Drop In Gaming, they won this engagement previously, but then they were quickly joined by Luminosity and Oxygen. I don't think we're going to see teams moving that quickly this time because the zone is not heading down towards Dome, but Luminosity maybe will try and third it as Stomps is going to at least be able to assist and make sure Stunny can get the knock, but it looks like Drop In Gaming, again, should get the better of this one as long as they don't overcommit here. When you've managed to get a knock, heal back up. Use the fact you have the player advantage, just be patient, and you are going to win this fight.
I think that's a very valid point, but if I'm Luminosity, I would go the distance to overextend. Oh, okay, I don't like the triple take, but if you're gonna hit for 87, go off. Now Drop In Gaming really wanting to capitalize and end this fight sooner rather than later so they can get the reset, but nothing like a little bit of melee 1-2 fist to end the deal. And Team Diverge out first here in map number 2.
Here we go. Here's Luminosity again, just right on cue, exactly as they did previously. They've assessed this lobby, they've assessed where the contest is, and they said, look, we're in the area. We can just come in and get free KP every single time. This is so unfortunate that the fight went on that long for Drop In Gaming, and now Luminosity will take them out. It is exactly the same as the game before, but this time, we're not going to Dome. So now Luminosity are going to have the chance to loot up, be patient, and they can look to try and assess where this circle's going to go. They have a ring console as well, so all looking good for Luminosity. Where is the circle going? I hear you asking in your head, Tiff. You're saying, Dan, tell me. We're going to Lava Siphon and the surrounding areas, so TSM fans, you better thank Onset and his script, because it seems like he's trying to give TSM the best chance as possible today.
TSM doubters in shambles right now. Let me just say that. The doubters are in shambles because they're sitting on a blue napkin, as Nice Wig would say. Shout out to the homie that's always doing watch parties alongside Greek and Clara at work. So I know she's wanting to see BBB find some success here tonight. But yeah, you get a look at that zone and you can see with the ring console being in Lava Siphon, granted, they're not running a controller legend to be able to get that information, but knowing the zone knowledge that that team has, they are immediately pushing kind of towards that northeastern side.
Yeah, I'm trying to see whether TSM would have had access to a survey beacon to at least get info of where the players are, but it doesn't look like it. But there's a lot of coverage right now. It would be impossible to tell. But look at the congestion we're already seeing on the northeast side of Lava Siphon here. Everyone trying to take as much coverage of those buildings on the kind of hill house areas and surrounding to make sure they can get in one of the priority positions. Playing early zone is so important in these lobbies. You heard Onset saying it. We saw how important it was in the previous game as well. There are going to be teams that struggle, but LAN, they're looking to try and get into engagement here.
All I know is I just heard the Sheila and knew immediately that Albrelelli was just feasting. You could see 2 elims credited right there. 2 of the Sheila shots coming in from a distance. So Alb setting up that amped cover in the doorway. Really nicely done. And Lanimals was my team to watch. Naughty had said, this is the biggest day of my career. And maybe not the strongest performance in map number 1 that they wanted, but they're sitting in 4th with 11 points thus far, which is genuinely a good start.
I think they're just one of those teams that everyone just kind of wants to see succeed. I mean, it was so strange not seeing the likes of Lou for example, at the playoffs, and he actually joined us on the desk for a little bit, right? And I mean, some players you just feel like deserve to be on that big stage, but you've just got to use those opportunities that are in front of you and recognize that actually it can make you better. We heard the same thing from Snipedown, the fact that he wasn't playing, and it managed just to give him that fire in his belly once more. And I really do love this Lanimal side, and great to see Albreleli on a team that can perform as well. But we'll have to see whether they can do something from this position. They're going to be very comfortable from the ring information that we've been seeing. And these kind of buildings where everyone is occupying, you're going to be able to stay there for the majority of this game. But then as the circle gets smaller, that's when you're going to start to have to move.
Oh, speaking of moving, you see tripods right there using the Dark Veil, but only Gent is making the cross. I see there going for a gold shield, so that's a very nice upgrade. But when you have Tech in crew, I feel like Tech is, I don't want to paint him as a villain, but my man's is out there doing the absolute most. You'll see him in like the game chat and be like, hey, where TSM landing? Do we go Lava Siphon? Is that you guys? Like, just absolute memes coming out. But you've got meat, Lanimals, and tripods each occupying a building here, and we're just kind of waiting on where they're going to go next, because it's only a matter of time. Hey, even got the Rampart heirloom though.
I mean, if you had told me last season I'd be commentating meat, Lanimals, and tripods all in the same area, I would have said you are trying to meme me, and maybe you're the one who's trolling and you're the villain. But it does seem like those are genuine names that we have in Apex Legends, and some pretty good teams as well, it has to be said. But, you know, they are always going to be looking for organizations, so if you are looking to get involved in Apex, there's plenty to pick up. Sentinels are going to be making their way, and just at the moment, holding this choke. They know there could be teams that are going to be approaching from the northern side. Actually, about 3 teams still have to move down from the northern side of World's Edge. One of them are Exet, but of course, Exet are on the northwest, so they shouldn't meet a team like Sentinels. And again, it is another difficult rotation for Exet, one of our best teams in this lobby.
Just a matter of time. We've seen teams play this chokehold, in particular EMEA earlier. It was going to be Jay Lings, but a rather different story. Sentinels double blue and that gold shield on RKN. Jay Lings was holding this. It was 2 whites and a blue, so very, very interesting. Off screen, fun FPS with that charge rifle cracking down on BBB, taking down Zach Mazer. And I feel like, I don't want to assume it was a Mazer moment, but it probably was.
And I feel like we should get more Mazer moments. We should make a documentary on Mazer moments, and it would be something that I would just constantly watch back throughout the rest of my life. But Exet, I can see the map overhead, and Exet are making their way and may actually be going up against Zach Mazer, because there is a fight that's going to happen at staging, or could happen at staging, if teams know that others are there. Do Exet have any idea? Yes, Exet do have an idea, and they're going to try and do some damage here already.
Look, I'm not going to say that high ground is key, but high ground is most definitely key in 99.9% of battles. Nocturnal able to grab some good opening damage, but just looking for that cheeky LOS. This back of the ring is at the wall, and look, they just have to bide their time. They are in no rush. Sure, the bang ult coming in, but
68 is good, though.
seems rather one-sided, Gaskin.
It does seem quite one-sided because, you know, they are down below them. It was going to be a struggle. Zach and Chaotic have now both gone down. This is a purely isolated fight as well. No other team is in the area, so Exet can take advantage of that, and maybe Exet know that. Perhaps they hit a beacon on the way and they could see which teams were where, but this should be an easy wipe. Exet looking to just try and clean things out. This is going to be a nice little 1v1. Oh, Nocturnal gets shredded. And actually, you've got to be careful here. Nocturnal then will be taken down. Sure, BBB do get eliminated, but is this now going to delay Exet an annoying amount? You can see they do have a respawn beacon available to them. They certainly wouldn't have had that on the script.
Luckily, you did mention it, a very isolated 3v3 here, and the respawn beacon is within grasp. So very easy to reset. They've got 45 seconds left on the clock, so they can get Nocturnal back in, let him loot, and then they can carry on their momentum. But yes, this will delay that rotation, and a lot of people are going to know that immediately someone was rezzing here to keep a line of sight towards Harvester for maybe understanding, hey, look for a team to rotate in here. Who rotates on that side? Teams are very good at memorizing rotational patterns of who potentially will be that team coming from that side, so I wouldn't be surprised. Meanwhile, Furia, gotta craft up those Evo shields. I mean, I think I was watching scrims and Furia hadn't even taken a fight and they were sitting on triple red at one point. And I don't remember who they engaged with after. They're just like, how the heck does Furia have triple red on their first engagement? Well, crafting, you know, on their rotation, maybe you hit 1 or 2 crafters and then next thing you know, you're on red. You got spiders on Storm Point. This is World's Edge. You're not going to have that, but still crafting, very important.
Yeah, they seem to have an idea of how they want to play everything, and they're going to be opposite to Xset in terms of their rotation. They're going to be the only team that's on this east side. Well, actually, I say that. It looks like Retzi and Rise are going to be just behind them, but it doesn't look like it's going to matter because Furia say, well, we're not even going to play that one. Instead, we're just going to skyward dive and maybe let's try and find a position. But I tell you what, positions are not going to be easy to find because we have 14 squads already in this next circle. Only 2 of them currently outside. Furia, though, are they going to be able to get a building? Yeah, okay, it's free. Well, there you go. It was easier than I thought it'd be.
I'm actually really shocked this building is free, but look at that. Cat doing what Cat does best, reinforcing the doors, throwing down the piercing spikes. We get this nice free cam shot. Furia on your left side. Oxygen Esports opening up space there on the right. TSM still controlling the major building there in Lava Siphon. Granted, that is their drop spot POI, and I just feel as if you couldn't write a better story. In Onset, map number 1, asking, hey, if you get zone prio, can you do what TSM did? Well, TSM now has zone prio. Can they do it again?
Yeah, even more priority than the one they had before, right? And I think he said it before, he said it best. They didn't even predict it perfectly, and they actually had to fight so hard, which made that first game even more impressive for them. But there are so many teams that were able to move quickly to this area, so a lot of the positions, it's really going to come down to where this zone pulls. I mean, Senox and the boys are over on the Hill House, which is sometimes arguably one of the best positions if we see a heavy shift to the northeast side of this circle, but also that choke point that is a little bit further north. Teams are going to sit there because then they've got the high ground over any of the teams that are on the building. But there is a lot of fighting to be had. Because we've got so many teams within this next circle, it's going to be a slow burner. But when we get really forced together, when we start to see the circle go into round 5, teams are going to have to take engagements, and third parties are going to be on the horizon.
Ooh, third parties on the horizon. Well, let's talk about a little snipe down sniper action. There's nothing more scary than someone somewhere having a Kraber in a pro match just looming down the sights and you have no idea that you're being looked at. But a nice 140 damage though, it's going to help to really level up these Evo shields. You want to make sure at least purple for that end game. And I wouldn't imagine that team's going to be dancing around on the outskirts. I would surely not pick a Kraber again, but if you're going to be playing Snake, this is not a bad area to hold. You got to think Xset, they're the team that was coming out of that area of the map. It's likely that they're the team in Harvester trying to craft up their shields, maybe get some resources like bats for endgame, and Snipe Down is just getting free shots.
I mean, there's having a Kraber on the map and it being scary, and there's having a Kraber in Eric Roda's hands. I've seen this man hold snipers for the last 15 years across several different video games, and he hits his shots, but Xset looking like maybe they want to take this fight. So, Snipe Down, can you hit your shots when it matters? That's going to be the real question, as Xset are still going in, and they want this fight here and now.
Oh, there goes the Seer exhibit now, just looking for a line of sight. Dark Veil out so they can kind of position forward. That's going to be great for FaZe to utilize that to cut off Xset. Now you can see Sykes just looking to reposition. Checking their back, making sure they're not going to get thirded. I like that.
Yeah, I like it. I really like it, and I want to know what they have to say about it. Let's jump into a listening presented by WD Black.
Yep. Wall's going to go down in a second. Get ready.
Yep.
10 seconds. 15. It's gone.
10 seconds in
Look
scan.
for right.
I got
Look for
truck.
right.
I don't see anyone in the truck. He's on it. He's on it. But he's not there anymore.
I have smoke at 7. Smoke at 7. Get ready.
Did they run? One thing. Here.
They're behind knockdown. Behind knockdown. Shoot
Okay.
Where's the rest?
I'm signed up.
Base is dead. They're all dead. Fucking Lamau,
Yes.
bro. Find the Kraber.
Kraber's probably out. I think he got it over there. I think Lou just grabbed it.
No way, bro.
I think he ran all the way out there and ran on it.
Get your...
Still?
Yep.
Hitting an ult cell. The team on the left has the Kraber. It's Lanimals over here.
Yep.
What, Serial?
I mean, fights going your way is always a good thing, but when it's against FaZe in the form that FaZe are, it's even better. But there's a fight going down here, Tiff, and it's going to be TSM involved.
Ooh, just like that, Sentinels getting decimated by the newly found TSM. I feel like last week I was talking about that match day and I reached out to Raven and I was like, yo, have they hit Bonkai training? I think that if they carry form and they go back to back here now that they have zone prio again, I will 100% say that TSM has reached Bonkai level. And for my weebs out there, this is the moment that we were all waiting for when the champs are appearing. They are ready. They want split 2 playoffs, baby.
I mean, if they can have a game even remotely close to the success they had in game number 1, we could see them closing in on 50 points after 2 matches. I mean, this is what a match point total that we would very rarely see teams do in 2 matches. I won't get too ahead of myself because, of course, there's still a long way to go in this one. But when you look at where this circle's going, you look at the position they currently hold, you look at the utility they have available to them, it's looking pretty good for TSM. The only thing that could be better, of course, is those shields. But if 3 players can hold on to a building with blue shields, it probably would be TSM. And I know people are going to be watching saying, oh, well, you know, Caster's hyping up TSM yet again. You haven't heard us for the last few weeks, perhaps, pretty much giving TSM a hard time because they haven't been at their very best. It is good to see them now performing, but there's still a job to do here. And there are still teams that can make life very difficult for them on their push in because TSM are in a building that a lot of people are going to try and take. It's also a very large building, which isn't easy to hold.
The higher you are, the harder you fall. But Meat looking to throw some people in the grinder. Funk and Zainu, last alive tech already down. They've got the knock on to Gent. This is going to be against Tripods. They want to solidify this over and out. And just like that, Tripods are eliminated, but not before a new team makes their way in. Lanables want a piece of this, and Lou grabs a knock on to Zainu. Very reactory, and this is what they needed. Naughty and Co performing so incredibly well. They should be able to get the reset off on this. And I think that's one of my funnest places to get resets in is the little bathroom inside of some of these buildings, bro. You can just get out of LOS, nothing. Just don't mind us hiding in the bathroom for a little reset.
Well, this is a risky one. Oh, gonna leave the man behind. Lou says, hey guys, wait up. I didn't manage to cling on. You talk about bathroom. Well, no Klingons here, as now Lanimals will dive on in. Just the 2 of them, Albrelli and Naughty, trying to find a spot. But as we said, there is a lot of residence that has been taken, and they're just gonna run into other teams. Lanimals looks like they might be down and out here.
I'm not gonna lie, Valk ults are such a coin flip, and that is not one that's gonna pay off. How Naughty is alive right now, I have no idea, but dropping to the low ground, it's okay because no one's really gonna wanna give up height. There's only, I believe, 1 Horizon in the lobby, and that's gonna be on TSM. They would have that grab lift to get back up immediately, but Alb looking to reunite with Naughty takes a lot of damage, but let's check this out. Lava Siphon, TSM, they must defend their home.
Have to defend and also are going to have to move as well. Black Hole does go down. TSM able to reset, but they've got 1 minute before they have to move north. Xset are actually in one of the primary positions right now, and considering how far they had to come across the map, you can see how big it was that they won that engagement against FaZe earlier on. But TSM are having to think, how do we get over to this northern side? We saw them make an incredible skyward dive in game number 1. Maybe they'll go for something similar. Maybe they'll try and fight their way across here. But with so many teams, still 11 squads left, there is a lot of eyes, a lot of guns. That's potentially a lot of bullets that you have to avoid.
Lots of bullets to avoid. And I just realized there's actually 2 Horizons in the lobby as Yanya, Luminosity also electing to throw in Horizon into the mix. And this is what you need. I'd be curious to hear what TSM's thoughts are sounding like. So let's jump into a listen-in with TSM and how they're going to approach this rotation.
Yeah, I know, but
Can we Valkyrie on Evan's side? Can we do it on you, Evan, or no?
maybe like right here where I'm at, right here where I'm at, right here where I'm at, right here where I'm at. Heal, heal, heal.
We're gonna have to go soon.
Ready? Popping it.
We just saw. How many's on the crane? We gotta check who's on the crane.
I saw
I'm gonna
1
scan
on the
it,
crane
same
at
crane.
least.
We might land on the crane, I think.
We could go top bridge, maybe as well.
I think we go crane. I think we go
I'm going
crane.
crane, I'm going crane,
Yeah,
I'm
going
going
crane.
crane.
There's a full team up here.
I'm dead. Play my knock, play my knock, play my knock! You win this, play my knock down! Zero on height!
Told you.
No, man. What? Why did you land in front of them, Jordan? Like you know.
Wow. I feel like I just witnessed deja vu. We saw Lanimals take that same Valkyrie looking for the crane placement, and even with Rep saying you win this, unfortunately it wasn't enough. But Forever Free Agent on your screen, Shuby with a rammed up Rampage, and just like that, SCS going to be eliminated. 7 squads remaining, and it's honestly so good to see Reptar on a Pro League team, Gaskin.
It's great to have him back, as We just saw, what, half the teams in the lobby just get all eliminated. Luminosity have just gone down as well. So we're down to just 6. Exet's still alive. As I say, that fun on the most slithers of slithering of Slytherin. He needs to stay alive. Will just about get the bat off. And Exet somehow are still alive. Exet have been griefed so much up here. 2 teams have tried to drop on them. They got the smoke down, which probably put TSM off on the landing. TSM maybe thought it was free because of that smoke. But Exet have just been able to do it. Also, the gold shield is huge, because Sykes goes back up. 6 squads remaining in Exet. They have, what, 7 kills as well? This is pretty good for them. 12 kills.
I mean, look, this is a banger game for Exet. That gold knockdown is literally keeping them alive up here. We hear the drone in the distance, and the first thing I was thinking of was tech, but it's actually going to be Sang from LTC Esports still in it. McLovin and co holding down the fort in the building. Furia still alive on the right side of your screen. Forever free agent, the new MLS. Luxverdi no longer a part of that team. We kind of gave a little shout out. Reptar now joining that squad in the mix as well. And Exet on high ground.
12 kills for Exet at the moment, and still plenty more available if they can play this correctly. The fact they've been able to reset is terrifying for the rest of the lobby, with how they've been fighting, with how successfully they just held any team that landed on the crane. And with how TSM wanted that crane, you better believe that this is a good position to have. You can see now there is a team below Exet here. Whether Exet decide to drop on this squad would be a different matter. There's going to be Watson fences that go down. Circle is coming towards them. So Exet, they've just got to be patient for now. Let the other teams just kind of force themselves into the open, and then Exet should be able to pick up kills.
Hear me out. Nocturnal on Bang is going to have to use those smokes. They need to deal a lot of damage, deal the smokes to cut off LOS, and then jump down in the right line of sight. And granted, there's a Dark Veil already out for the teams below, utilizing their resources to get rid of the Jenny, grabbing another Elim to the mix, and Native Gaming bullet on the Rampart Gaskin.
Sheila singing her song has just destroyed through the Dark Veil. Exet managed to reposition, but can they reset? Can they win this engagement? R9 doesn't do the job. Fun and Nocturnal are still alive, though. 5 squads still remain, but Exet are forcing their way in. Smoke to the face. 4 squads down.
Nocturnal, what in the world was that, you little demon? That was disgusting, but LTC Esports and an RE45 in the hands of Danman. This could be everything that they need. Of course, I'm just going to curse them. Taking to the skies. Can McLovin clutch this? You've got Complexity on high ground. This is what they need. Everyone was asking. A good day for Complexity. And Luda, a sliver of health, drop down from high ground and take your map to...
That final circle was nuts. That was so difficult to try and follow with what just happened, because everyone was forced into the open at the same time. There was a Sheila shooting through the Dark Veil. Nocturnal was just firing smokes at people's faces. I don't really know what was going on, but somehow Complexity ended up on high ground. And then at that point, it was pretty easy, let's be honest, once they just watched all the ants below just get burnt in front of them. But an incredible game. I mean, the amount of kills Exet just got, by the way, was mental.
I'd be really curious to see how that is going to affect the leaderboard in general. But first, I want to bring back Onset, man. You know, you've been hiding over there, lurking, lying in wait. We've got to hear your thoughts on map number 2.
Wow, Exet, what a performance that is. I mean, a tough zone for them to get to again, but get there they did. And the way they held down that crane, and I think Dan pointed out a really good thing that was important to them being able to reset so many times, having been challenged on that height, was the gold knockdown. Being able to res people at half shields, it just allows you, even if you're the player who's resing taking damage, to then heal yourself, because that player can shoot for you. So Exet reset, it felt like it was 2 or 3 times up on that crane due to the knockdown shield. And I think the battle for that final kind of high ground, the ultimate high ground above the crane, I don't even know what you'd call that. It's kind of just hanging from nowhere, just a box in the middle of nowhere. It was Complexity who were there just before Exet. That was Exet's game plan, and unfortunately they couldn't take it. But I mean, Complexity clutch it out. Magic moments from Sheila at the end as well, firing through the Dark Veil. You can see why teams are using Rampart to try and combat the Catalyst walls. But I mean, again, just a crazy endgame. TSM, good placement points, but I think they'll be disappointed with the zone priority they had, not being able to convert to more points. But for Exet, again, just outstanding.
It was really tough. I heard the comms from reps. It was like, you win this. And then all of a sudden, they didn't win it. And I was just like, oh, right to the gut, Gaskin.
It's just when you put it that way, I mean, yeah, it makes it even harder on these guys, because, I mean, they saw that the problem was with the rotation from TSM. They saw the smoke, they saw the crane looked free. But when you see a smoke, you probably have to think maybe there's someone there. But they were probably confident to take the fight in. You know, maybe they had enough of resources where they thought they was going to be comfortable. But it's just one of those ones. It's how the cookie crumbles. And I will say that was a very fun game to watch. A slow burner for sure. A few early fights. Again, this contest happened. Luminosity, by the way, are one-upping everyone when it comes to free KP at the moment, it would seem. They are just picking up the pieces onto Drop It Gaming. And I'm sure Drop In are very frustrated about that.
Look, work smarter, not harder if you're Luminosity at this point, but it was BBB in this fight with Xset on set that I was like, wow, this is so rather one-sided, coupled with some really nice shots from Snipe Down.
Yeah, I mean, there's, again, another moment where Xset managed to reset. You know, there was a 1v1 that happened right at the end where one player got knocked and got finished, but they had a respawn beacon right behind them. And let's talk about the fact that that wasn't a surprise that they picked up those KP and they were behind BBB. That's calculated, right? They worked their way through the zone. They took their time. They were going to craft all their way up to zone to make sure when they got in those fights, they were going to be in the best spot possible. So BBB just lost track of where Xset were, where that rotation was going to be coming in, and they were caught off guard. But this is the big fight towards the end game. Whoever wins this probably finishes top 2 at least. But there is, again, the reset after reset after reset. The revive with the gold item is going to be absolutely massive for them. And I got to say as well, Furia quietly went about their business and picked up a good amount of points in that game as well. So the table is going to be very interesting. Complexity on this, I just still don't know what to call it because I'm not quite sure. It's whatever the crane is lifting up. All right, the crane weight, technical term, is where the game was won from.
Can we go with Skybox? Skybox kind of works, right?
Yeah,
Box
nice.
in the sky.
Complexity from the skybox. Luda drop. Yeah, no, it sounds epic, but that's really good for Complexity. I know a lot of people were like, hey, Complexity, we need you to have a good day. You're one of those big names that are in the mix that just needs to step up, and step up they did. 19 total points, but it's Xset with the 14 eliminations on set that have my eye.
Yeah, I mean, 2 games we've had so far where one team has kind of had their way with the lobby, right? Xset in that game certainly stood up and said, okay, TSM, whatever you can do, we want to try and do it better. 14 kills on their way to that second place. I think they'll just be, knowing the standards that Xset set themselves as well, I think they'll just be disappointed that they didn't get first after it all was said and done. Fun, by the way, as a solo, managed to work his way and navigate through absolute carnage to finish in second place. So amazing stuff from him once more. But yeah, there's only one story to really talk about there, and it's Xset's performance with Complexity, obviously taking home that win.
Ooh, Lanimals right there, 4 elims on the second half of the page, 2 of which can be attributed to Algs Sheila. It was singing. We heard you, Gaskin. It was beautiful. But FaZe on the second page didn't make it out of that snake chokehold. Had they been able to withstand kind of the onslaught, it wasn't necessarily Xset that picked up a lot of those eliminations. They actually got sandwiched inside the chokehold. So rather unfortunate for them, but that's okay. They should be able to bounce back. But let's go ahead and look at the series results as they stand after 2 games. TSM still doing enough to keep themselves at the top. But you said it best, Onset. Anything you can do, we can do better. Xset 26 points, looking to unseat TSM at the top.
And we're going to have to see how the zones pull as well, because they've been 2 really good zones for TSM, 2 not great zones for Xset, which I think really does underlie how fantastic that performance was from them in the first 2 games. 26 points from southern-based zones for a team that's landing over at Trials. You take that every single day of the week. Even Xset, you know, they might say they want to win every game, but you would 100% take that.
I'll 100% take that any day. And honestly, production just told me we get to witness the final circle once again. So let's take a nice little look at that skybox. What a really interesting ending here. Complexity taking to the skies, repositioning themselves at such a valuable point of time.
Well, they both landed at the same time, but I think that because not the entire team committed, that's exactly what happened. Okay, so Xset were only able to send the Valkyrie over the top, whereas Complexity were able to send the entire team on top of the skybox, and it was a 3 versus 1 up there. And sure, we saw Xset survive and finish in second place because of it. They kind of hedged their bets. They didn't put all their eggs in one basket, did Xset, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe if they had all tried to commit with a skyward dive, they would have just ended up finishing 4th, but instead they still got a second place, which you'd say they'll definitely take, because in theory they won this game with the amount of kills they had. And then once Complexity did win this skybox, it was just inevitable, to be honest. They just had to watch what everything unfolded below them and just make sure they did the damage.
It was really nice because kind of taking that high ground there allowed them to get a few eliminations, because going into that point, they really hadn't succeeded in finding some KP in that mid-game area. It's rather tough because throughout that entire mid-game, Gassian, we saw so many teams just held up in buildings, but you said it. That was like the calm before the storm. At a certain point, it had reached where all the teams kind of started collapsing on one another, and it got really chaotic.
Yeah, we saw Lanimals, Meat Lovers, and Tripods all in the kind of same area for ages. And then when the circle started to come in, they finally all had to fight. And it just was a shame, really, that after they'd been such peaceful neighbors for so long, they then got aggressive. I just would have liked to see them hand in hand all approach the circle together, but it wasn't going to happen. And in the end, we had to see the Lanimals come out on top. And that's good. If you are going to be residing in an area for quite some time, you want to be the last team to get involved in the fight so you can get the KP.
Look, you wanted them to be happy neighbors. Instead, we got the purge, but you know what? It's totally fine. We got map number 3 underway. So I'm going to kick it over to you boys. Onset, Gaskin, take us through.
All right, then. I'm fascinated to see where this zone takes us, and I'm sure that Xset at this point just say, I don't care where the zone is, as long as it's somewhere on the map, we'll find a way to get some points. But I think we really need to highlight what a performance that was. And Xset, all the talk before the season, we heard it from Hot Six saying, we want to be known as one of the best teams in the world. I think if you don't think that Xset are one of the best teams in the world right now, you're not watching enough Apex Legends. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, just their positioning, their team fighting, the decisions that are being made, everything just seems to be on top of the world right now for these guys. But can they carry that momentum as they keep going? Like, you've got to stay at the top of your game for so long, and you've got to make sure you peak at the right time in battle royales, because it's all well and good being amazing now in the regular season, but what happens if suddenly you drop off a little bit when you get to LAN, right? You need to make sure you are still doing that research, still doing the kind of VOD watching, which we know Hodzik does. Research is so important as well, and I don't think we get to talk about it enough as commentators because there's just so much action that happens at times. But the things that these guys have to remember, like which team is where are they rotating from, what composition could they be running, how are we going to win this fight, where is the zone going to go, like that's just a small amount of all the things that have to be done by the players. On top of that, you've then got the coaches who are going to be doing everything behind the scenes so that they know what's going on. It's just on
you got to fire your gun.
On like yeah, on face level, it is I shoot gun, I go to right place, but there is so much more than that, and that's why I love this game.
Well, we've had a little bit of a lobby reset, so it gives us an opportunity to bring Tiff back in to have a little chat about what's gone down so far, because we always love your opinion, Tiff, and we want to hear from you as well. But I think it's interesting, we painted the picture before we got underway about the bubble team, right? The bubble teams, everyone who's chasing those places at the moment. And out of all of them, the only team so far, yes, we're only 2 games in, that has put points on the board consistently is TSM. That's a bit of a worry for the likes of Furia, BBB. Those teams have been caught off guard in games 1 and 2.
I'm also thinking of Sentinels, right? Like, I want a split 2 playoffs with the Sentinels on it. And I just feel as if it's not the Sentinels name, right? It's not the Sentinels name. I keep telling myself that. The guard picked up by the Sentinels now going into split 2. It's not the name, right? We want to bring it back to all capital SEN. We need Keon, Rambo, RKN in full form. So please give me that.
I mean, I just want to see more finger painting, to be honest. So I'm hoping that Sentinels do end up on LAN, because we need to see episode 2 of Onset and his painting. That's for sure.
I feel like that ran its course. I feel like no one wants to see that again. Although we came out with some masterpieces, although Rambo's was far better than mine. But I think when we talked about mentality before we went into the games today, and you put yourself in the shoes of TSM after 2 games, right? You got points on the board. You're like, okay, we feel like a lot of the pressure is off our shoulders now, because if we have one more good game, we're probably inside that top 3 when it's all said and done. Like top 3, top 2, whatever you want it to be, we've got a chance of winning, essentially. If you didn't put yourself in the shoes of Sentinels, you're probably thinking, if we won that fight against, on the edge of Dome, then maybe we would have been in a better place. And then, we didn't really make it to end zone. And it's the negative thoughts that start going through your head instead of focusing what is ahead of you and what you can control. And it's so crazy to think about if you're watching at home, like all these things go through. I mean, Dan just listed everything that's in Apex Legends you have to think about before you've even shot your gun. If you then add on the fact that there's the pressure between games where you have to be able to switch mentalities from what's already happened and, it's gone, it's done, it cannot be changed, to then what you want to focus on in the next game. It's such a tough thing to do. And that's where you need a strong leader. That's where you need someone who's going to pick the vibes up in the camp, who's going to go, okay, boys, come on. Heads down. Let's get on this. Let's play a little bit of music. Let's forget about what's just happened. It hasn't gone our way, but let's focus on our next game. We've got 4 games to put this right.
Yeah, I mean, we heard it in the EMEA broadcast. Leo Gree, at the end of the day, came onto that broadcast and he's like, it's the morale. You talk about all the things that you need to be hyper focused on and aware of, and then you have to have good aim on top of that. But it's moments where you have the slightest of hesitation or doubt in a decision that will be absolutely detrimental to your performance time after time, play after play, fight after fight. It'll seem like you're just not winning fights, and you'll start having those bad thoughts. And you're right, the regain is real, getting that morale centered and forward. And I think that's really impressive to be able to have a strong mental fortitude here in competitive today, because you think about it, right? Most of these players are just sitting in their rooms at home, not with their team, playing, kind of just vibing out. I think like TSM, I think they all live in the same house together, right? So granted, you've got that and you can kind of build the morale and support around that. Maybe go out, pop a nice steak dinner, regain. I know Biggie talks about his cold showers, working out, eating healthy. There are things that you have to do to keep the morale on track. So I leave that with you guys, right? I'm going to kick it back over to you.
All right,
you guys have the best morale in the business, best casters.
Now I
in it,
know,
you know.
Mark.
We're keeping up the vibes right now. That's what we're going to do. And if anyone needs us to jump into the Discord, whatever it is, TeamSpeak, whatever you're using, we'll sing you a song. We'll pick the vibes up. Don't worry about it. Ahead of game 3. Dan has already been singing a little bit of a Sheila song, so who knows? Maybe that's going to come out pretty soon on all platforms near to you. But I mean, one more game on World's Edge, Dan. We have seen two Southern Circles. We have seen TSM be the one team who's broken out from the pack. Xset obviously just doing what Xset does, but I feel the pressure is starting to be on with some of these teams that we just mentioned. You know, Sentinels, BBB, Furia, who had a pretty good match day the last time we saw them. There's only 4 games remaining, and they are going to go by so quickly. And of course, after this game, we switch maps as well. So we have all these new questions coming to the fore.
Only 4 games and also only 4 match days remaining as well. And remember, they don't play every match day, which probably means you've got, what, maybe 2 match days remaining for you and your group, as the contest that we've had over towards Dome is going to happen again. But are we going to see Luminosity come out on top once more, or can this fight finish quick enough where Dig can actually take advantage of the victory they've been able to have back to back?
I mean, this is a bit of a rough one. I'm pretty sure the flight path was not favorable to Dome, because you can see that neither team has really managed to get in here very quickly. It's been a little bit of a delayed push for both teams to get the loot on board to actually fight here. But Team Diverge, they've managed to finally get some weapons to fight with and have a little bit of a scrap, even though it's a Mozambique and a Scout, which is probably not really what you want off drop. You want to find a little R9 or a car, and the first knock is going to go against Dig here, as TD will get that first knock.
TD have got the first knock, which is looking good right now, but what's bad is they get the eliminations. Where's Luminosity? Here they come. Yeah, they say, all right, well, this time maybe we can just pick up. Oh, yeah, okay, it's going to work out fine. They get another knock. TD, even though they finally win the engagement, it's just the same old story. It's Luminosity getting free KP for weeks. They're in 8th place at the moment. They've got 12 points. Luminosity are pretty much living off this KP they've been able to find at the start of the game, because their placements haven't really followed.
I love that Mastiff shot, by the way, coming in from Niza. Was like, if I had 2 more bullets in my R9, this would be a kill, and I'm going to frustratedly fire and hope that this Mastiff is enough to connect. But unfortunately, it wasn't at that point. But it looks like Team Diverge. I'm gonna be bold here. I don't do predictions very often, Dan. You know my thoughts on predictions, right?
Right.
They're going to struggle.
They are going to struggle.
They might not make it out into the top 5 in this game.
I really thought he was going to step his foot into the lava, and that was going to be it, and that was going to be the worst way to go down. But it looks like might get the chance to reset and actually play a game of Apex Legends, because they've not been able to do that so far, thanks to Luminosity. All the meanwhile this has been going on, we have got ring information, and we're going over towards staging, maybe slightly north of Thermal Station, but a fantastic circle for the likes of Lanimals, who do land over towards staging. And also not the worst circle for Xset. I mean, we've seen Xset go all the way down to the southeast and all the way down to the center of the map. This isn't going to be as bad a rotation for them.
Yeah, I think I mentioned, like, Xset don't care where the circle is right now. They just back themselves to have a game plan that they can execute to get points. And that's what we saw in that previous game. But for Lanimals, this is a good zone. You can see they're already up on that hill house overlooking staging. You've got Native inside of staging at the moment. And just looking across our map overhead as well, you got BBB making their way from Thermal Station. They might be able to hold out the southern side of things. And Sentinels, well, they're getting a little bit aggro here, Dan. They're trying to hold down these tracks. They've got a little bit of damage done. You can see that Keon's already got 1 kill to his name.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with Sentinels just trying to push some advantages here, get some KP, and show us what they're made of, right? Tiff said she wanted to see Sentinels at LAN. Well, if we're going to see Sentinels at LAN, they need to have some big performances. Doesn't have to be the best performances in the world. You just need a bit of consistency. You need to have some pretty good games. They're in 12th place at the moment. That's not where they would expect to be. I mean, Sentinels were a team who were finding victories on LAN during Split 1 playoffs with all the best teams in the world, right? They just haven't really been back up there, and I don't know whether it's just not quite adapting to the meta change just yet, or whether they've just not had the right games. I don't know, but maybe we'll see them change things around in these next coming weeks. But we are seeing a lot of congestion over towards staging, and FaZe Snipe Down needs to be careful. He got a little bit excited, goes through the portal, but just about survives.
Yeah, that was awkward. That was almost disaster for Snipe Down there. I wonder if it was an attempt
Was it kidnap? Yeah, it must have been, right?
We'll have to phone the authorities and get confirmation on that one, but for now, Snipe Down escapes, and he has a Phoenix kit as well, so he'll be chilling for now. But the low ground, pretty difficult to hold for the long game, but FaZe are set up here. And we'll be able to at least survive inside of this zone. The problem is no doors to reinforce for the Catalyst. No real cover to play with as well. And it looks like it was a cheeky little kidnap attempt coming in. Snipe Down actually did pretty well to get out of that situation.
Well, if it was anyone else from FaZe, they'd probably get the kill. But because it's the Valkyrie and it's Snipe Down, he was able to just jet back up right immediately into that portal. So Native Gaming probably kicking themselves a little bit. But one of the reasons why I'm happy to see Wraith just appearing in compositions again, because it means we get potential kidnaps. There's something just a little bit exciting about kidnaps in Apex Legends that is always fun to watch people attempt them. But Native Gaming, they're going to be holding one of the better positions here in staging. You could argue some might want the high ground, they might want the tracks, but I will say that you're going to be vulnerable from those tracks to teams arriving from the western side. So I like this for Native Gaming. They can be patient here, and they might be able to get some free KP.
Shot's going to be coming in. Good job, by the way, of saying in Apex Legends after you were talking about kidnapping, because that would have been a very strange rabbit hole to go down. But Klein trying to do what he can, like you mentioned, to break a few shields, to level up those Evos. The Sentinels, once again, find themselves on our screens. And it's Meat Lovers, I'm pretty sure, who are on the other side of this Dark Veil. LTC have just been eliminated as well, as we lose our first two teams. That was Lanimals, I believe, who were involved in that fight. But Meat Lovers decide, you know what? This fight isn't looking too pretty. We're going to back down. We're going to do a little bit of crafting and make sure that when we come back into this fight, if we choose to, that we're going to be able to reset and we've got the meds to play with.
So the only teams who haven't really made their way into the circle at the moment is TD, who have actually got back up to at least a 2 from what I can tell, and LG, who are still hunting TD. They are just relentless with their hunt at the moment. They are not allowing TD to get away. It seems like they want to make sure they pick up the free KP yet again. But it does mean that both those teams are going to be arriving very late. You can see them in the southeast side there, TD and LG, just in the red, taking damage. Everyone else, however, has pretty much arrived around staging. There are still late ones from the north. Exit haven't moved from Skyhook just yet. They're going to be pretty patient. I imagine they will make their move down after they get zone information right about now. And then it's going to be a big question, where do you try and take? Because there are a few positions still available here. I wouldn't say they are winning positions, but certainly ones that could give you a good chance of getting into the top 5.
Well, how about a little, maybe a beacon building zone that we're going to see here? We got that little overlay for just a second there with the beacon information where the next zone is going to be going. This was a zone that we saw a few weeks ago, or a few game days ago, I should say. I always get confused with that, by the way. It seems like time just passes very, very quickly to me. But it's certainly going to be maybe holding down that choke where tripods find themselves. That could be a good spot to hold towards this endgame phase. Maybe looking for a little bit of information here, trying to see what teams are around them. Is it busy at the moment inside the stadium, or has everyone started to kind of take a vacation and move away and it's a little bit too quiet, meaning we might be in the wrong position? Phonyhead trying to get info at the moment with a heartbeat sensor on the Seer to see if there's a team above them or if they can make a move. And this is the choke that I was talking about for tripods. But look at Xenox, Crust, and Slayer, SCS, inside of that building where we might see that in-game taking place.
Yeah, the area where they have the building and then the tracks just nearby, we do see circles going that way, so I think hedging your bets there is certainly a good one. My worry is the teams who are on the western side of staging that still have to come a little bit will have to either go over the top of everyone or try and fight their way through. But because it's so congested, as soon as a fight breaks out and everyone gets involved, it's going to be absolute carnage. No one's really going to come out a victor there, and I imagine everyone is going to lose players. So 18 squads at the moment, and we might see maybe 15 squads still remaining when we get into like Zone 4. As soon as Zone 5 comes around, that's when we should start to see a lot of people fall to their knees.
Well, Jen's making a little bit of a play here, using the portal to take the high ground away from this team. And it's going to be BBB, I think, are the team on the other side of this. So Jen's trying to get aggressive. He doesn't have any sight on the scout, just the iron sights to play with. But does enough damage to at least force this team back for now. We'll have to see what the next move is, and we've got listening lined up with tripods. Let's jump in and have a listen.
Are they? I'm gonna come back.
They're shooting.
Wrap that right. Let two on the right. Go on, wrap the right. We're coming. Go back to RV.
The team in that snake has a charge.
Okay. You're good. Just use Harbor to rotate back. You keep going up the ramp. Like, maybe now CSM finish. I don't know. Zero's still down. Zero's gone. I still have an iron sight, Scott. Let me know if you see any sight at all.
I've read that.
Yeah, let me have that. You don't need it.
I dropped it.
Thank you. I'm locking that port.
I have alt excel if need it.
His team was looking, I think.
There's a guy
I have
deep
armor
on
stuff
top
on
of
top, I
it.
think. Careful.
Bottom right, bottom right, bottom right. Right where?
I think that they have control on the height.
Top right as well.
Wait, they might have
I'm not.
chill. I'm back.
There's a front towards us.
Well, Tripod's making rotation towards Harvester, and it looks like they might be met by Fury. In the meantime, Dan, if you were keeping your eyes on that kill feed, TSM are out of this lobby. They will not get any points in this game, it looks like, unless they picked up a KP that I missed, but a little bit of a quiet one for their team who came out hot in game number 1.
Which opens up the doors to Exet to take that #1 spot going into Storm Point. And that would certainly be fantastic for them and would really demonstrate of what a powerhouse they are, not just in this particular lobby, not just in this region, but in the world right now. It has all been Exet with how they played. BBB, they've dropped 1, the design fall's gone down, but they can still fight this as a 2.
Knockdown shield is going to be used so that Chaotic can pop this battery. Is he going to try and stick the res? It might be a little bit risky. Goes for the stick instead. Did he get the damage? The knockdown should block most of the damage coming in from that Arc Star. Zach Mates is trying to finish, follow up, with the Prowler in his hand. But this is looking like, again, a little bit of a mess. But there's the gold knockdown again, Dan. We've seen what a game changer was for Exit in game number 2. And this time it allows BBB to reset here and try and get back into this fight.
Designful tries to pop a little cheeky kidnap of his own as BBB still alive somehow. They've been able to avoid all of these bullets that have almost felt like they've been bending around the corners, and now there's a crypto EMP just to make things matters worse. It looks like they are just going to be able to stay alive, but are they ever going to be able to reset? There's so much pressure on them right now.
Looks like they will be able to reset for now. I think the port was just to try and drag the players from Oxygen away, jump back through. We'll have to obviously see that one again to see what the plan was from Designful, but it's worked, whatever it was, because everybody has reset at the moment, apart from Designful himself, but he's holding the ground, and that's going to force Oxygen just to rethink their strategy here. Going back to that choke that was held down by Tripods a few moments ago, remember, has now been taken residence by Oxygen Esports. So enemy up on this high ground. He's got Havoc. He doesn't have a turbocharger, unfortunately, but he does, unfortunately for him, find a charge rifle that's just going to shave away at those shields for a few seconds.
25% of the lobby on Wraith. We've got 5 Wraiths. That we've not seen Wraith selected this much in quite some time, and I wonder whether it's going to get increasingly more popular as we go on. We also have, what, 12 legends being selected in this lobby as well. Everyone's trying to experiment and trying to find a little something different. I feel like after a game hasn't gone well, you feel like, well, if we had had Loba in that scenario, we could have crafted the banners. If we had had Mad Maggie, we would have been able to use the Death Ball and we would have been able to get out because we can utilize the speed. It gets dangerous when you start thinking about that.
Captain Hindsight, one of the greatest superheroes of all time, reintroducing himself. But for now, BBB, I think their plan is just to try and clear this side of the zone. They don't, unfortunately, have the Valkyrie to go over the top of this mountain range, but they do have Designful with that portal potentially available when they do need to make that move. So a lot of pressure potentially on the Wraith unless they try and bully their way around one of the sides of this mountain. But looking at the map overhead at the moment, you can see that TD have worked their way into a good spot. You can see that FaZe still down on the low ground inside of staging. Lanimals still up on that high ground, but it looks like Exet are making their move in on Lanimals right now. So this might be a really interesting fight about to break out.
I mean, any fight with Exet involved is certainly going to be an interesting one with how they've been playing so far. You can see they are approaching from the west, just like the horses in Lord of the Rings, but are they actually going to help the cavalry here? FaZe are in the position in the middle. You can see TD have been able to rescue a spot as well. BBB now doing so much damage from a distance with the charge rifle. They're just being a nuisance. And as the zone closes, we are naturally going to force teams very close together.
And this is a fight that you can see through the point of view of Zach Mazer right now. This is Exet who are involved in this fight. They're taking the damage from that charge rifle. But the good news for Exet fans is they forced Lanimals away from that building. The problem for Exet fans is that building is not going to be safe, so they're going to have to leave. They're going to have to traverse across some open ground, and that's going to be a really, really sticky situation for them to try and work their way out of. But if Exet can do it, anyone can do it as well.
You can see now the circle shifting over towards the east. So we were talking about that building that SCS are in. They're going to be slam bang right in the middle. And they'll be in one of the prime positions to at least force a top 5. But what did I say? We've got 17 squads. We're in zone 4 as what he's doing is exactly what he can do from a distance with the flatline. I was saying earlier, I don't really like the flatline from range, but clearly there's a reason why I am not a pro player, because I cannot do that from a distance. Complexity, they had the incredible win in the previous game, and if they can replicate that even slightly here, they can have the opportunity to push themselves into the top 2 as well.
The crazy thing here is staging. There's about 6 or 7 teams in and around staging at the moment, and none of them can leave. Only one of them can leave, excuse me. Not everyone is going to be able to get out of this position. FaZe still down on that low ground. They're waiting maybe for a fight to break out above them to jump up that zip line and take advantage of a third-party opportunity. But look at Luminosity. With 17 squads remaining, they're kind of peeking through the spider's webs of that reinforced door from the Catalyst, looking if they can peel off a player if that was to break.
It can be a circle. Sometimes it finishes just south of where Luminosity are in the open area just below this Harvester kind of edge. So they might be all right just to hold this for quite some time and then see where the circle pulls. But considering LG, you know, they've been the nuance in the southeast side of this map. They're finally able to get into the latter stages of this game. But they've got so far, but still no placement points secured for anyone yet. Remember, you get 1 placement point for getting top 15. No one's even achieved that because this lobby is so stacked at the moment and everyone is playing zone so successfully.
We'll start the countdown, everyone. It's not the Royal Rumble, but this is Zone 4 about to close, and everybody is going to get cut down. We are going to go from about 17 squads, probably around 10, I would say, as a maximum, because not everyone is going to be able to leave. You are going to see the kill feed start to light up as Sentinels now make their move. We saw them on the tracks a few moments ago. They take down Native Gaming, and all of a sudden, when we say the name of a team who needs to step up, it's almost like they can hear us.
And everyone is going to be making their way now, and whether it's going to be skyward dives or if it's just going to be sheer brute force, you are going to be met with a lot of trouble wherever you go. It doesn't matter if there's anti-aircraft missiles or whether it's going to be ground forces. Fight's about to happen.
Sentinels trying to cut off all these teams leaving staging at the moment. I like the call from RAN. Rise are going to be eliminated as well. RKM making sure that KP is the priority here. Probably feels like they can't get a prio position for the end game, but might be able to pick up some KP, and that's exactly what they do. And Keone is understanding the assignment perfectly. Exit eliminated, FaZe eliminated, Team Diverge fall as well. And now Keone left on his own. Sentinels will fall, and it's BBB who seem to come out of all of the carnage with their heads held high.
Well, you said only one team could survive, and BBB seem to be the kings of the castle in the end, and they get the high ground onto tracks. But as we may have alluded to, this circle is still going to be going east. It's still going to be going towards Harvester, so you may have been able to get out of the initial warfare that was staging, but you've still got to get further. I mean, even SCS, who are probably feeling pretty tidy in their building. Look, they've set up an entire home there. They've got forts up. They've managed to put a ring doorbell up at this point, and they want someone to come knock on the door, but they're going to have to leave, and here comes the action-packed. Players already looking for damage.
The EMP just destroys all of the Watson fences. And now that is the signal for BBB. They say, hey, all of a sudden the door's been open for us. We want to go in here. We're feeling confident. SCS trying to hold their ground. In the meantime, Complexity will fall, and we're now down to just 8 squads. Xenox will fall. The back gets popped here by Cross, but you can see the white meds, they have not been popped, and all of a sudden they're going to fall. SCS will be eliminated. BBB lose design for in the process, but they're into the top 7, and that's more KP for them.
3 teams that still have to move from west to east. There's 2 teams that are on Harvester. Furia are still alive on the north of Harvester as well, are tripods. So there are 4 teams over on that Harvester area who have a real good chance of winning this game. But look at it. It's absolute carnage right now. The exhibits are down and fighting is ensuing.
Yeah, this is the one time that you think maybe the Zero isn't that useful, because you just see about 17 different people on your screen. You're like, okay, I get the idea. I'm just going to stand still and wait for damage to be done. But speaking of damage being done, it looks like Furia are the ones taking damage at the moment, but they do manage to at least reset for a few moments. Meat Lovers are fallen. BBB, they're gone as well. Luminosity finally break through that Catalyst wall, and they make their approach forward too. Tripods will fall. We're down to just 4.
Well, you spoke about those bubble teams, right? Those teams who needed performances. We heard Luminosity, we heard Furia, both of them still alive in arguably some of the best positions that we've got right now for this final circle. The others, of course, you've got Reptar and Madness down there. You've got Oxygen still alive as well. So 4 squads remaining, as now the circle is going to close shortly, but it allows for a little bit of a lull in play. People can relax a little bit, start to think about how they want to approach this final circle. And with 4 squads, I always think it is an interesting one because it isn't as simple as waiting to be the last team. You have to actually assess who's going to be coming from where you're going to be putting your Dark Veil down if you've got a Catalyst, for example, who are you going to be prioritizing and shooting, and is there a team that you have to be worried about more than others?
Well, welcome to the closed shop of Furia right now. The merch is down. Look at all the armor swaps that they've managed to get from these boxes. I think there's about 5, 6, maybe even 7 armor swaps that they have on the floor, plus the fact that they've all got red armor. And Zeratricky at the moment, he's got 4 kills to his name. Furia have 9 kills at the moment, and it seems like everyone in this lobby is taking turns to have monster games. Maybe this one's going to be Furia's, Dan.
Could be Furious indeed, especially with the amount of resources they have available to them. I say their biggest threat could be Luminosity, depending on how Luminosity play this one, and Oxygen can really throw a spanner in the works, but looking at how far Oxygen have to go, they have to move first, and they don't have a Dark Veil. So we're going to be looking at enemy getting a portal down, perhaps to give them a new position. Here comes that portal. We'll have to see where they end up.
This is where the pressure really does go on to the Wraith. Have to find somewhere to play. Have to find somewhere to get your team. Have to make that all-important call that the portal is safe. LG poking out from the bottom of the Harvester building. You can see Furia up on top. Madness trying to shoulder peek for his team to see if they can pop a little bit of damage onto LG as they will be forced to move. But the piercing spikes are going down as well, and that is going to slow down any movement from Reptar and Co. And Furia are probably thinking, you know what, there's KP here, and it's all named Oxygen. They pick up 2. They will pick up all 3 of them by the looks of things as well. Furia will fall down from the high ground, but should be able to secure these final kills.
I mean, that is not great from Watson. He probably didn't want to fall like that, but it looks like the team's got enough cover where it should be okay. They can still play this one correctly. 3 squads remaining, so now Furia just have to be forcing the other 2 teams to fight. LG now are going to be the next team that have to come out of their little hidey hole, and the damage is just ripping through this Dark Veil.
I mean, look at what his Watson is actually doing here. This has kind of really worked out for them. He just shoulder peeked for a second, took the attention away, and now he's the player with the flank coming in. Forever Free Agent will fall. Furia marching towards a massive win in the final game here on World's Edge. They will close things out. And the bubble teams have come to play today. Furia, it's their turn to put huge points on the board.
An impressive second place for Luminosity as well. They tried to use that Dark Veil to escape, but as you said, after the little bit of a stumble, maybe off the top of that building, his Watson just said, actually, I'm going to use this to my advantage. I'm already in an aggressive position. Let's make it more aggressive. Let's get as much sight lines as possible. And because they had the crossfire, it was just easy. It was all she wrote as soon as they exited that building.
You saw the damage coming in from LG as well, and his Watsons just thought, you know what, I'm just going to spark this fight along a little bit. I'm going to get them all involved. Tiff, we'll welcome you back in as well as we finish our games on World's Edge for today. And like I mentioned, it's been TSM, it's been Exet, and now it's Furia's turn to wipe the lobby.
It's kind of wild. We've had some really stark moments, and the only thing that I was focusing on during that last kind of battle was where BBB had positioned themselves, but it was Oxygen Esports that had kind of nestled themselves near the tunnel for the longest point of time, stayed out of all of the initial chaos that was happening, and while that ring started to closing, yeah, we were focused on the Harvester fight, but Oxygen Esports full sent BBB and eliminated them off the face of the planet. I was really hoping for a standout game from Oxygen. It's just a shame that rogue portal went wrong, but Fury was happy.
There's only so much room to play, unfortunately, and in those end games when the circle gets small and there's not a lot of cover or even a rock for Oxygen to put that portal down, it's you take what you can get because you're going to have to move at some point. And if a fight breaks down while you're in the portal, great. All of a sudden the attention's off of you. This fight finally is going to be finished. LG will be disappointed because they've had the easiest KP of their life in these first 3 games on World's Edge today. I'm pretty sure they're going to have it a little bit more difficult as we move over to Storm Point. But it was the battle of staging. It was that zone pull away from staging, which I think, Dan, caught a lot of teams off guard.
It really did. I think a lot of teams, they were maybe hoping it was going to be the finish that was under the staging train tracks, but as soon as it pulled further east, it was just absolute mayhem as everyone just tried to scarper their way across the map. And you mentioned it, only one team was really going to come out of that healthy, if at all. And then after that had happened, we just saw half the lobby just get ripped away from us. But then in that final circle, it was all about who had the most kind of utility to work with, who had the most resources, and who had the best position. And the high ground was probably the best position in the end. And how many kills did we see? I think it was around 16 for Furia. So we've seen 3 big games for teams here, right? TSM were able to get that 27-point game. We saw Exit also dominate with, what, a 24-point game. And now we're going to see a 28-point game here for Furia. So we clearly have 3 leaders right now going into Storm Point.
I mean, this was so cheeky, right? His Watson does drop down there, but is able to do so much damage weaving in and out of these dark veils. And it was really impressive. He probably did at least 1,000 damage down on the low ground, and Furia coming out on top for map 3. Absolutely glorious. And I think you called it impeccably on set. No lie. Every time I hear like a game ending call from you guys, I'm just like, sheesh, take notes.
I mean, let's be honest. We were both, I think Dan and I went, ooh, his Watson. Ooh, did you mean to do that? And it was like, wait, this is genius all of a sudden. We'll give you the benefit of the doubt. So it's more luck than judgment, but I appreciate it. I think Furia, though, there's been a few performances we've seen today that are like, okay, this team is finding a different level, finding a level of comfort this season that we expected to see from them after what we saw in Split 1, or maybe in previous history, right? The ALGS Championships was where Furia announced themselves running around those lobbies on edge and destroying everyone. And now all of a sudden they're having that game that we expected to see from them maybe a little bit earlier, but they're finding the form. TSM did the same in game number 1. XSET continued their amazing consistency in game 2. And the wonderful thing about it is we've had 3 point sponges, I think, in our first 3 games, which means that in the last 3 games, it's not like anyone's running away with this. It really is still 3 games where it can all change.
It can definitely all change. And I love that we can sit here and we can talk about it. And we can say, you know, if this happens, cool. If this happens, congrats to TSM. They need to double down, get some more points. But I always love getting to hear from the pro players themselves. And something that's been really cool is on these ALGS broadcasts, we get to bring someone in to kind of talk us through it, provide that IRL perspective. And today's guest, I'd like to welcome Onmu from 100 Thieves.
Onmu!
What's up, guys?
What's up, man? How are you? Hey, we're good. How are you?
How about you guys?
Vibing. Honestly, it's been pretty wild watching those first 3 games. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of great storylines coming through. TSM switching up the meta a little bit, going back to a comfort pick, playing great game 1. XSET continuing the dominance, and Furia just doing what they do best, just winning games, a lot of kills.
Hey, yo. We got the script writer on hand. We thought it was Onset, but I think it might be Onmu. He knows.
No. Onset hit me up in the DMs a little bit earlier. You know, he got me with the script.
Oh, okay. Good to know. Good to know that we're prepping you for what's kind of happening. Well, while we've got you here, I'm kind of curious your thoughts. You're already well versed in kind of what is happening. Obviously, congrats. Also, thank you for keeping the mouse and keyboard dream alive. By the way, guys, I really do appreciate that.
Someone's got to carry the torch. We'll be honored to do it.
You do. You're doing great. Well, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on maybe an outstanding player that you've seen thus far today. We've had a lot of bubble teams popping off, and it's do or die for a lot of these teams looking to find themselves in Split 2 playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in terms of outstanding player, obviously, you can't say anyone other than Hal, I feel like, right now. He's switching up, going back to the comfort pick. He was absolutely frying a lot of people with a repeater. Haven't seen him use that weapon really ever, but yeah, that's probably my outstanding player as of right now. Got to go with the CEO.
I want to ask you, Onmu, by the way, never leak the DMs, okay? Never leak the DMs. We have to have this, this trust thing going on, okay? But I want to talk.
All right, so my bad.
It feels like it's 3 teams that have just had like monster games so far. And what do you attribute that to? Is it just a really smart rotation that they've taken and caught some teams off guard, or is there something more to it that you've seen as a player?
I think the biggest things coming down to it are they're taking the smart fights when they need to. They're clearing aside, making themselves in the best position they can. And then as they're in that position, they're just kind of working their spot and stealing kills around them and basically just playing their positioning smart. They take one big fight to get a good spot, and then after they get that spot, they just kind of take as much space as they're given.
And today, Omnu, I mean, it looks like we've got more Wraiths than we've seen in quite some time. 25% of the lobby selecting Wraith. What's your thoughts about her coming back into the meta? I mean, do you think this is a good thing, a bad thing? Is it good choice, bad choice?
It's an interesting choice for sure. I think Wraith, kind of like what she provides, especially when it comes to navigating an endgame circle, is basically just moving around, finding like small spots to safely move your team without getting potentially fried from anyone else. It saves you health, and then once you're in that spot, you kind of play patient, I guess, to basically work a third party. But it's an interesting pick. I didn't think I would expect to see that.
I think it's valid. I think you made a really good point there, especially when you're like using the portal to move your team safely. We did see that kind of at the end game, especially with Oxygen Esports. You saw the Wraith portal come out, and unfortunately, it was not safe. It looked safe at first, and then it was safe until it wasn't, right? And then his Watson was just like, oh, hello, guys. I'm just going to pick you guys from above. But I want you to kind of look, 100 Thieves, you guys have some of my most favorite comms. Anytime we get listen-ins, it's hype, it's awesome. So we're going to look at the final circle here, and I want you to give me the 100 Thieves comms version of your thoughts when you look at this.
Oh boy. I'm gonna need scurry for this one too, but
you can't like call out all your teammates here like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah. Well, basically like what I saw in this end game, this is just kind of like a textbook end game. High ground wins end games in battle royales. Furia basically just playing their high ground extremely well. They're basically taking a free fight on this Wraith team, which I believe was Oxygen. Oxygen can't really do anything at this angle. They're just kind of like surviving, hoping to get the extra placement. I was really surprised when Watson fell down. I honestly didn't think he meant to, but it kind of worked out in the end. He just kind of, you see him like crouching up to the side, staying out of the seer ult and catching this team off guard and scooping up these kills. And then at this point, it's just, you basically have two people on height. You have one person on an off angle. It's just, you can't really do anything if you're LG. You're just kind of like trying to damage control, hope you get lucky, hope someone overextends or over peaks. But Furia played it disciplined, they played it smart, and that's just a textbook endgame in a battle royale, in my opinion.
And you can see these results, right, on your screen, those 17 eliminations.
Oh yeah, I see it. That's what Furia, probably one of the best teams in the world doing that. Lots of kills, great placement.
Yeah, that's insane. We thought TSM's map 1 victory was absolutely crazy, and then Furia went ahead and just one-upped it a little bit. So overall, great
by about 1 point, probably.
Yeah, just enough, right? Just enough to say they did it. But overall, thank you so much for joining our broadcast today. Curious if you have any last-minute shout-outs or anyone in particular you want to thank today?
I mean, I'd like to just give a shout out to Reptar, basically playing in his first ALGS after like over a year playing with a team in the top 10 overall. He's got big shoes to fill in Luxford, so I'm hoping they do pretty well coming out of this.
Nice. I love that. And I think I saw a tweet from Chrono that said 400 plus days since Reptar's played in an ALGS game, so it's been a minute.
A year and a half.
It's absolutely wild. Well, thank you so much, Amu. I wish you the best of luck on your journey here in Split 2, and I can't wait to see you at playoffs. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Enjoy your night, guys.
Woo! I mean, what a guy. Amu seems so solid.
I was going to say, every single player that we've had on in recent times, we're so lucky. Like, they're the most awesome people in the world. And I want to give them a shout out. Go and follow their streams. Go and show them some love. Show them some support, because, you know, these guys are taking time out of their day to come and have a chat with us and entertain you guys at home. So we appreciate it, Onmu. Amazing job. Also, getting slightly worried about the analysis side of things, because they are all absolutely crushing it. And like I always say, kind of need this job. So
well, you're worried. You're the play-by-play. I'm quaking in my boots over here. I might have to change my role if this keeps happening. I don't quite know what I should be doing, but no, yeah, it's great all these guys coming on. And you know, if any other pro players want to give their kind of words, just let us know as well. We can bring you on, and I'm sure we can let you tell your story, and you can help us kind of dive into these final circles, right? Because it's always amazing to see it from a pro player's perspective.
It's true. And I don't necessarily have a solidified casting duo. So, I mean, hey, you know, hit me up if you're thinking about retiring. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But for real. I'm showing out here. But no, let's go ahead and let's say maybe you don't want to be a caster, or you don't want to be a pro player just yet. You just want to kind of test the waters and see if you've got what it takes. Well, then the Challenger circuit in ALGS is right for you. We just had our first weekend kind of kick off on Saturday. I watched a lot of the first couple rounds. I had some friends that were throwing down in it. Unfortunately, they didn't make it to the semifinals or the quarterfinals yet today, but have no fear, because next weekend, well, not next weekend, it's in a month from now, Challenger Circuit number 2, registration opens March 28th. So grab you 2 other members of your teammates, get your Cat Seer combo together, and you never know what's gonna happen, because I guess you gotta play Cat Seer at this point, or be like Hal, go back to that comfort pick, hop on Horizon. Yanya did it too, and they are finding some strong successes here today. Well, that's been enough. So here's the deal. We have had 3 tantalizing maps on World's Edge. Gaskin's going to hit a break, and I'm gonna steal Onset for the next couple. No, just kidding, just one map. I was like, oh, look, I'm looking for a solid duo here. No, guys, I'm never gonna break up Onset and Gaskin. They are just so fun to listen to. Impeccable endgame calls, and oh god, he's back. Hold on, I'm so sorry. Back to business. Hi, guys.
Hi, Guy. It's only one of me. Yeah, that was. I will say it's always awesome to hear from like the pro players, because they're obviously watching this from two perspectives, right? They're obviously watching it as a fan. They're not playing, but they're also sat there like analyzing what's happening in the game and like how other teams are approaching it. And they've always got in their mind, with all due respect to the other teams, they're always preying on the downfall of some others because they want one of those spots themselves. So shout out to Onmu for coming on, and it sets us up beautifully now, Tiff. Storm Point is where we're headed, and I think that's kind of fun because the lobbies have been very exciting for kills, and Storm Point kind of lends itself that way.
Yeah, Storm Point can be really exciting, but let's go ahead and look really quickly at the historical. TSM winning that map #1. Now, granted, they did that the last match day, and we had said, you know, this isn't going to be any different. They're going to be consistent, right? And I think that they will be on Storm Point, but the big thing here is Complexity rounding out, Furia as well with a really solid performance. But this is the battle of the wall Onset.
I'm interested to see if this battle does keep going down. I don't think it benefits either team, as crazy as it sounds. And Dan was right. There's only so many places to play from here on Storm Point. So you are going to see contests going down. It's just with the position that both teams find themselves in, both BBB and TSM, when you're contesting and you find yourself as those bubble teams chasing down those qualification spots, can you afford to even have one game where you aren't going to get points on the board? You know, even if you win 2 of the 3, the fact that you have one game where you might not win that contest is going to cost you an entire game where you could put 2, 3, 10, 15 points on the board. And it's such a tough thing to try and work out.
No, you cannot afford it. That's the easy answer, right? And you can see it on that map overview. BBB has elected to take that building on the left side of the wall, which could, in a sense, mean they're landing, looting, and then yeeting out, which could run into Bullet, who typically loots those like pineapple buildings over there, grabs the trident, and dips. But I'm okay with this because I was really nervous, and granted that first zone is going to pop up while some of the teams are still making their way south, relatively central. Ooh.
This is going to be pulling down towards the northern side of Cenote Cave, maybe finishing on the outsides of the God Rock, so to speak. And there you go. That was what you were worried about. It's Klein, unfortunately, whose job was to raid the pineapple buildings, as you so wonderfully called them, and he gets caught off guard. It looks like BBB had a game plan, a strategy coming into this, and I kind of like it. They all land together by the cannon building on the wall. They let TSM do their business, and now they're going to hit the armory. So they're going to come out of this with loot. Sometimes when you're splitting a POI, the worry always is, are we going to have enough loot? Are we going to have enough meds to get to endgame and fight our way there? Well, by hitting the armory, you certainly are.
I mean, Chaotic sitting there on the R400, ever dubbed the R301, R99. So the fact is they were able to grab that building, drop down. There's 6 guns already in here. And granted, had they found maybe a purple mag, they'll be guaranteed gold in their smart loot. But the thing is, I like this. Right now, triple blue potentially going to be going on to purple as they make their way. We saw the zone kind of pulling a little more towards Bean. And the POI Bean, you may ask, guys, it's kind of more towards the southwestern side of Storm Point. There's a mountain when you kind of look at the overarching view of Storm Point. It's in the shape of a little jelly bean.
Well, just to give a little bit more indication of how this isn't a bad contest for either TSM or BBB. Obviously, you know, neither team is going to come out of it with premium loot, but the fact that there's no crafting for this one game over at the wall, there's no ring console, there's nothing extra, so to speak, at the POI that both teams are going to be annoyed that they have to fight for, or maybe have a reason to fight for. It means that both teams can leave, and both teams won't really be slowed down on their rotation. So it kind of works out for both teams. If there is a ring console there, though, I think we might see a little bit of a change of plan for both teams where they might have to just delay and try and fight for that information. So it's kind of settled itself, so to speak, with there being a lack of beacon information for either team. And I got to say, like I mentioned, BBB definitely came into that contest with a game plan. Maybe not to take TSM on, but certainly pick up a KP and hit that armory.
Well, maybe. Look, I saw Hal scrimming with BBB at one point this week. I think he subbed in for Chaotic. Maybe there was a truce pack. No, I'm just kidding. I have no idea. But you can see on your screen where Sentinels is located just on the outskirts of that next zone. They land high point. They had the ring console information, and TSM at the wall did not. So look at the quickness that Sentinels was able to go from the very, very top side of Storm Point towards Bean, and they are ahead of TSM on that rotation. Now, granted, they could stop inside of Cascades, but we didn't see them running Catalyst on World's Edge. We have yet to see kind of maybe what that Legend comp is looking for them, but they will need to look for a survey beacon. They do get crafting here at Cascades. However, it's very risky, right? You can see someone crafting here for so kind of a good distance and you're vulnerable.
Yeah, especially if you're crafting the armors up as well. It only takes a couple of shots if you're accidentally in a position where you find yourself without your shirt on, and you can get taken down extremely quickly. But a couple of digis are going to be crafted. You can see the house got some pretty good loot, actually. The spiders were very kind to him, as we see a couple of fights going down in the kill feed. It looks like Digger having a bit of a rough time in a pinch as two teams are firing down on them. But Reps' job here is to make sure that crafting is safe for his two teammates. Imperial How is going to be making sure that he gets his armor and evoed up a little bit more. And Forever Free Agents are making a little bit of a scuffle here themselves as the push starts to come in.
I mean, Onmu said it best, a year and a half since Reptar has competed in ALGS, and to come in a team currently sitting in 9th place overall on the day after 3 maps, not bad, but you're going up against Tripods, an enemy from Oxygen, joining into the fray as well, grabbing a knock onto Reptar. This could give Tripods the advantage they were looking for.
Yeah, the pods are trying to pick up the kills, but unfortunately they're not going to be able to quite do so for now. It looks like that res might have come in, but look at the amount of teams that are all of a sudden having a little scrap here. This is right in the center of zone, and this is why this fight is going down. This is what Onmu described as the big fight. This is the one that could potentially put you in a spot to win the game if you can come out on top. But the longer it goes on, the more teams are going to have a look, the more teams are going to be involved. So you've got to get it done quick, and Tripods now from a position where they had 3 players alive, unfortunately will lose Deeds.
Yeah, but Deeds was able to grab 2 knocks, and I think doing enough, Gent being able to like re-stabilize that door, some other team could look to full send on this building and clean up, but that's not going to happen. Forever Free Agent has that gold knockdown that is proving time after time. Today, we saw it with Exet on top of the crane, being able to get reset after reset that they shouldn't have been able to happen, and they're going to do it.
What's in your pack with WD Black? Well, I hope it's the gold knockdown shield, because it has been one of the most impactful things we've seen so far today. Tripods managed to stabilize as well, as both teams just consistently trading reses. And I think you kind of be a little bit surprised to see this go on much longer. I think Tripods, they obviously want to solidify this build, and they do have the catalyst, so they're able to kind of reinforce the doors, are able to get some piercing spikes down to make it very difficult to push. And I think after attempting a couple of times now to take the team down below them, they've settled for this top building, and I think that's a smarter thing to do.
You can see Oxygen Esports on that left building as well, and that's a tough building to lay siege to, because you think of where the stairways are, there's only 2, and then that entire square area of the upwards, you have so many different windows. You can look for the cheekiest of line of sights, and even if you look to pop some shots on Xenal, you see there, he could just switch up his angle on a different window, and it's just whack-a-mole in a sense. But I'm just trying to think of the teams that are going to try to be rotating into this area. We get a good overview of Lanimals. I mean, playing the Rock makes sense. You've got the amped covers, Alberlelli with the charge rifle, just menacing charge rifle Chad. TSM, not running a controller character, probably had to extend out and look for a survey beacon to kind of get information on where all the players are making their way. So they'll have a slower rotation here on Storm Point rather than what we saw on World's Edge.
One thing for TSM to keep in mind on, you're completely right, they've just got that information going over to Cascade Falls, but one thing they have to be aware of as well is the rotation coming in behind them from a team who is on fire after that last game, and that is going to be Furia. This was something they were always aware of at the ALGS Championships, that when they were in the same group as Furia, Furia might be on their back, shadowing them and mirroring their rotation. So they have to be extremely aware. You saw they were taking those precautions when they were doing that crafting, making sure that Reps was up on the high ground to watch their back. But speaking of watching your back, you've got to watch your front as well. And Rise are trying to get the information on this team over at the mill, as Detox is going to step forward with a Prowler in his hand.
This team came out of the Pro League qualifiers as well, picks up Retzi for some knowledge and experience in the Apex comp scene, but I just don't feel like they found their momentum thus far. But I feel as if you can get that experience in a split, go through it, and then double down on your next split to really stand out. But they're currently 19th overall on the day, looking to find some KP, sitting on 2 blues and a gold, so that should give you the confidence. But Monsoon going down early.
Monsoon gets absolutely shredded. Complexity try and trade out here. Big damage being done by Cody, which is going to slow things down. He's going to use the Bangalore ult as well, and they do get Monsoon back on his feet. So not all doom and gloom here for Complexity, even though Monsoon really didn't get much damage done himself. It looks like his two teammates from Complexity will do it, and Klein will be finished off. So Native having a little bit of a rough game so far. We saw one player already get caught off guard right at the start of the game as BBB dropped onto him from the top of the wall. Native Gaming now completely eliminated, and Complexity from what was a what we'll call an awkward looking position now have control of this building.
It's a good building, right? You have that survey beacon, but no one's going to allow you to get on the roof of that building and scan that survey beacon. You have a team, Rise, over in Mill, you've got Complexity, and then you have the team that was potentially sitting in there. So you think about where this zone is going. When we talk about Checkpoint, Checkpoint typically gets some good information. They have crafting. Most of the time, they'll spawn both survey beacon and ring console. And with the bottom area, those 3 buildings of the southern area of Checkpoint still being in this zone, there's going to be a lot of congestion, in particular in that chokehold. And you got to think about the teams that may have rotated through that area. Obviously, it's going to be potentially the wall. We have Oxygen Esports. They haven't moved. They have solidified this spot. They will stay here for a while.
They'll stay here for a while, but one thing we've got to keep our eyes on is a fight that might just be breaking out. It's actually been avoided between 2 teams at the north side of this zone, 2 teams that rotated through Checkpoint, and it's almost like poetry, and it's the weird things repeat themselves. BBB having a little look at TSM once again. They meet once more after kind of touching knees, if we want to use the Apex content that was at the Split 1 playoffs as a reference point, but decided that this time they're just going to split, and BBB are going to take a wider rotation. TSM now inside of the zone on the north side as Complexity do find themselves back inside of this building, still trying to deal some damage out with that charge rifle, but they're not going to be too discouraged about the position they find themselves in. FaZe, though, they are. FaZe are in trouble.
Look, coming in at the top of the leaderboard on that series standings, you can afford to have a bad day. Granted, you don't want to have a bad day. You don't want to find yourself in trouble. You want to keep the momentum moving forward and stay in high spirits. But you can see right now, Furia, top of the screen, just holding north of that area. They've got the grav cannon. Not typically one of my favorite spots to play, but it will work. I actually saw a zone, I believe in the Challenger circuit yesterday, one of the rounds had ended right here with what we're looking at. So potentially, will we see something like that happen today? Possibly, but LTC throwing out the Dark Veil. They want to cover the distance or avoid. They've already got a knock, and they are looking down the scopes of Furia right now.
Two members of FaZe have gone down. I think one managed to just about survive. It's Frex who managed to kind of scarper out the situation. Sentinels are having a sniff about, though. They've just arrived after taking a skyward dive, and LTC trying to locate where the teams are surrounding them. Furia is one of those teams. Furia still in the lobby. 18 squads, by the way, Tiff, still in this lobby. I mentioned how today that the games were going to be very kind of touchy-feely, nobody wanting to make mistakes, and we're seeing exactly that.
I mean, it's challenging. We have the entire lobby. We think back to when we were on Split 1 playoffs. I know we were calling a lot of those games. This is lining up to be like they were on land. There were so many teams existing and cohabitating and trying to play their lives, being smart about the fights they take. And BBB have actually managed to get all the way to the mill on the roof. And granted, it's not in that next circle, but they can get some information here and kind of hide. You've got the little tiki type material, the hut-like material. What is this, straw? Is this straw on set?
Yeah, I don't know if it's like a very geographically precise type of plant that grows only on Storm Point, but we'll call it straw for now. I think that works.
I like it. I like it. Oh, good. Look, we get a good look at the map. The kind of southern areas of Checkpoint, you can see TSM still up there. We have the last member of FaZe kind of in that spider tunnel just to the right of TSM, but that zone pulling is disgusting, and Furia has found themselves in the actual center. They are going to have to play that grav cannon for their life.
Well, Frex, I wonder if he managed to pick the banners up, because there is an opportunity for him to maybe respawn his 2 teammates if he can sneak behind Sentinels who are on that island. It obviously would give off a signal to them, and then Sentinels might be turning around and thinking, hey, is it worth us committing to this? Is it worth us trying to pick up this extra KP and giving away our spot that might be taken away from us? But BBB on our screens to the left-hand side, you can see they've got to fight their way into zone as well. And with time ticking down, the longer you leave these flights, the more you have to commit to it when it breaks out.
I actually really like what Forever Free Agent is doing. You see Reptar on your screen just on the south of Bean, which, by the way, good up close personal overview here. So you can see the exact mountainous area that has deemed this POI named Bean. They are working their way through the Spider's chokehold. And if they can essentially keep that LOS onto Sentinels and show up rather uncontested and just unannounced, they may find some success over there.
This is going to be another one of those zones similar to what we saw in the last game, where everybody who is south of the zone at the moment is probably going to find themselves either dead or the one team that survives and looking extremely healthy when it comes to loot. Luminosity, they're inside of the zone at the moment. They've got a building to play. They'll be set up for the end game, but looking across at the moment, you keep in mind the standings, how close things are. LG done a lot of damage in this game. Only 42, of course, for Yanya. Maybe it was a little bit of crafting to get these armors up to red. Excuse me, I misspoke. But they will be in a good position to take fights, and certainly if their building gets sieged, they'll be able to hold their ground.
Yanya making the move from Horizon to Valkyrie for Storm Point. I really like that. You do need that ability, her ultimate. Now, we talk about a lot of the changes, and essentially, she's not able to scan. You can't get the ring information for Valk, but that ult can be so mission critical here on Storm Point, depending on where you're kind of rotating from, but especially in those late games. But 17 squads remaining, and the Charge Rifle Chads are reigning supreme currently in this game. Luda able to grab a knockoff screen, but Yanya gets absolutely rolled by Shubi.
Nizel and Co. Jaguar is trying to do what they can to make this push difficult. They managed to reinforce that door for just a second. A couple of arc stars are going to go in, and I'm pretty sure he stuck someone as well. So that can completely change stuff. And all of a sudden, Luminosity, who looked like they were about to be wiped, they turn it completely on their head. That is an arc star sent from the heavens above. Forever Free Agents eliminated. FaZe eliminated as well. And Luminosity will somehow survive that siege.
Me looking at the what's in your pack and hoping it's a Moby so you can get Yanya back, but this may be a moment where LG just needs to stand up and play their lives. It's going to be rather tough with 16 squads remaining for them to be able to get Yanya back, but it was like a sacrifice. It's like, Yanya must sacrifice himself for the team, and it happened. Now Lanimal's throwing down the amped cover. Will we get the Sheila coming out?
Sheila's ready.
Oh, no.
She's ready to hit a high C or whatever note is required. Albrelli just kind of scares them off, I think, a little bit. The amp cover, the 119, add them up, everybody. We love a bit of maths. Albrelli will go down, though. Not enough damage to solidify this team fight in their favor. It's all up to Naughty now. He has to clutch once more. BBB find themselves with only one player alive as well. So it's a 1v1 as Inters and Lanimals will both be eliminated. It looks like BBB will come out on top of that one. Naughty wasn't able to hold his ground.
It was Luda that swung from an area and able to grab Naughty, but Complexity stepping up to the plate. They've already lost out on Monsoon, so a 2-stack here for Complexity, looking to double down, and just like that, BBB going to be eliminated. Luda utilizing the jetpack to reposition so nicely. Now, they have the loot. They have an amped cover. They've got a charge rifle, but they have a zone that they need to rotate to in only 20 seconds.
TSM are looking at them as well. TSM moving through that spider cave. If they work out this is a duo, then TSM will probably think KP. Meat are holding them out as well, as just to the right-hand side of where Complexity find themselves. They do have the ability to skyward dive, though, as Luda is still alive on the Valkyrie. Interesting thing is, IGL obviously on his back at the moment, having a watch, and he can help with the calls, and it looks like the skyward dive is going to be that call. Hopefully, for Complexity fans, after the win we've already seen them pick up, they can find somewhere safe to play.
I was going to say, late game Valk ults would work in APAC North lobbies, but are typically more punished here in North America. Luda taking a lot of shield damage, but able to survive, and they make it to the complete other side of the zone. And as I say it, Curse is going out, Luda down. Now Cody has to answer back, be very reactive as opposed to proactive, and it's just going to be a mess.
Jumps on top of the tent. Jumps on top of the railings, jumps on top of anything that isn't a missile, but unfortunately the missiles will find him anyway. The Rolling Thunder really starting to chip away at Complexity, but the longer that he survives, the more chance there is at placement points being picked up. You can see in the kill feed, Exit involved, TSM involved as well, LG are taking knocks, and Cody's just like, cool, everybody kill each other. I'll just survive in the middle of all this carnage.
Look, someone's got a rat. We saw Postkill and Amia doing a great job. Now we turn the Tades to TSM. Because that team was able to hit that Valk ult earlier, it gave TSM essentially a free rotate into the zone, while LTC, it's going to be Dan Manic, the last member alive, just being punished from every angle. Unfortunately, you cannot hide from Furia.
Yeah, you can run, but you ain't going to hide. Like you say, Complexity's still alive, though. Cody picks up a little armor swap, which is going to help him TSM taking a little bit of space at the eastern side of this zone as well. Furia, who have been bang in the center of zone for the longest out of all of the teams that we see, also might have something to say in this end game. Cody, unfortunately, looks like maybe his game is going to come to an end for Complexity. Has about 10 HP to work with, but again, somehow or other, gets a battery popped.
I have no idea how Cody is alive right now, genuinely. Just hiding out in the midst. Just please do not look my way. Awan's from Rise able to get reset as well. So very challenging here. And a little bit of that calm before the storm. You see TSM kind of up in that northern area. Verholst utilizing that kind of cheeky area on the rock, trying to make something happen, get some information, but is going to be punished for it. Does have 2 bats and 12 cells, so a little more healthy than typical, and does have that RE45 in his back pocket.
Got time to pop 2 cells, but they don't have a lot of time to make a decision here on how they want to approach this TSM. Where is safe to play, and can Verholst cross back to his 2 teammates? That's the real question here. He's going to be taking damage from Furia, but it looks like TSM have at least stabilized on this waterfall, but it's not going to be safe for long. And Furia know this. Furia trying to hold them out at the moment because they know that the rest of the lobby will take care of itself as Zeratricky fires through the smoke with the digital threat doing what it does best, giving him targets to hit.
I mean, Fury has been playing this gravity cannon since the dawn of time. We have been here since the big boom. And honestly, if Fury doesn't win this from playing this position the entirety of this time, I'm gonna be upset.
Well, Fury got some work to do still. Rise trying to move their way forward. TD was still with a player alive, by the way. A couple of players alive. One's on their back, but might be able to be picked up. TSM trying to focus fire across, but TSM are going to have to make a move now. You can see they've got this one rock to play with. The Dark Veil is down as well, and that's on the side of Furia. That's Zeratricky, who's trying to focus the attention of him and his team onto the teams who are to their left. But it looks like a change of plans here because his Watson has made the call. His Watson has made the play, but almost had to pay for it with his life.
Team Diverge down, Rise still alive, TSM still alive, Cody still alive from Complexity and Furia. And I feel like this is a massive stalemate that we would see in chess, and it's all about taking the attention away from you. You can see the Dark Veil that went up sideways, and now Rise is playing that rock. They do have that good zone pull. Ooh, all right, look at his Watson doing something a little cheeky, setting off that grav cannon, but not actually going.
I was going to say, just don't make sure that, or do make sure that you don't accidentally step into that thing and launch yourself into zone. It's an awkward way to go out for sure, but here's Watson is doing what he does best, and that is being very creative in these situations. You're seeing a bang ult now go down. TSM are going to be caught in this. Cody is just watching it all go down. He's going, this is a lovely little view, a lovely vista. Maybe I'll bring my paints next time, but for TSM, it's all about dealing with Furia. If they can take them down while they're distracted, then TSM have a chance of winning this game, but it's Furia again who can completely wipe this left side. The longer they don't do that, the longer this fight is going to go on, and the more time that TSM are going to have to just walk up on this.
Hal's black hole burnt. Cody in the grotto found out his Watson going to fall from a member of Rise. So now you are getting some trades out, but this is going to take into account that these two teams are preoccupied with each other, and it's going to give TSM the advantage because they can just essentially push in and clean it up. Fury eliminated, Complexity eliminated. Now you just have one more team in front of their line of sight.
This is going to be it. TSM, comfortable victory for them in the end, but it was such a great game of patience from TSM, who pick up their second win of the day, their first one here on Stormpoint, one on World's Edge to go alongside it. And I'd love to watch that rotation back from the map overhead. I think they played that so well, so patiently. Sometimes it's not about what you do, the decision that you make. You have to be reactive and wait for the rest of the lobby to make decisions to make yours even clearer. That's exactly what TSM did in that end game. They made sure that they waited for Fury to have to make a play, and then they wrapped behind him, mirrored that rotation, and it was a simple job for them in the end.
I want to bring Dan back in. I think you make a lot of very valid points, especially on that rotation. We talk about a lot of these things, especially timing, right? TSM at the wall. They're not getting ring console information because they've elected to go back to the comfort picks, nix the controller legend from that. So they're not getting that information. They extend out in cascades, get the survey beacon, get crafting, utilize reps to kind of hold their line of sight and make sure that no one's pushing onto them. But Gaskin, it was done to perfection.
It really was, and I really loved the bit at the end where they had to take the fight against his Watson as well. If they had not done that damage to his Watson, if his Watson had managed to get a grenade off or knock one of those players, similar to what we saw in the final game on World's Edge, where his Watson put himself in a position, took an angle, and did damage, then TSM would have just been down and out, right? But they all made sure they were facing, they were prioritizing, they knew exactly how they wanted to play that final circle, and it was just about keeping Fury at bay. And they did just that with so little cover on the rock as well. Very impressive in that final circle.
Well, let's go ahead and roll some of those highlights from match number 4. Maybe we'll get a little bit of insight, but yes, I think at some point we need to track that rotation because it was quite textbook on set. Just everything that they did, and even Complexity taking that Valcolt from TSM's side of the ring. And yes, it kind of threw their game, and Cody had to essentially look like he was on vacation, chilling in a grotto mid-map while everyone was fighting and chaos was breaking out inside of him. It also played into TSM's survival.
It certainly did, and I've got to give a shout out as well to Cody. I mean, I think pretty much when he landed on the floor after that Valcolt, it was top 12, maybe even top 10, and he ended up getting into the top 5, I'm pretty sure. And you know, the KP alongside that means that Complexity come out with a little bit of bonus play due to that solo play he managed to make. But Complexity won some really important fights in this game as well. You see Ludo, he's already got 4 kills to his name at this point. There's a couple more to be picked up by his team, and Complexity are going to be in the running. Even though they didn't win the game, they got into good placements, they had KP alongside it. And we were talking about the 3 big teams, right? Outside of Exet have been TSM, Furia, and arguably Complexity with their win that they had earlier today. So the teams who are at the top of the leaderboards are still going to be looking extremely strong.
Ooh, a lot of intense moments. I love getting to run it back and seeing it from a different perspective. And you look here, making it to the top 5, that elimination onto Furia Gaskin, but it was TSM that Girls had the RE45 in the back pocket, allowing him, and even a little bit of hip fire from the flatline coming out.
It does seem an awful coincidence, doesn't it, that an RE45 often ends up in the winner's hands. It is one of the best and my favorite weapons, but that's how the results look. Then TSM were able to get 7 kills, 12 placement points to a 19-point game, already on top of the 30+ that they had. So they're now going to be over 50, which puts them in a really good position for today. We knew that was going to be the case after 2 victories, that's for sure. It seems like they have answered when they needed to answer. They still have to get the job done going into match 5 and 6. It's not quite there just yet.
Rise finding 15 points of their own. I was a little harsh, maybe a little hypercritical on them towards that early game, and it's like they heard me. Then a top 3 finish for them, so beautifully done. We cut on over to the back half. We have BBB, Lanimals, and even after potentially contesting TSM and electing to leave, finding 3 KP and getting 4 points, not bad. That's better than chowing TSM off rip and running the gauntlet of potentially getting 0 points. But FaZe not necessarily having the best game as well. So let's cut on over to the series results and see how that second TSM victory panned out. And hey, 51 points overall on set. They're looking good.
Looking very, very good. Still 2 games to go for them as well to really solidify that place at the top of the leaderboards. And let's just remind ourselves, even if TSM win today, that job is by no means done as far as qualification is concerned. They've got to continue this performance for the rest of the game days that we will have in front of us. Same could be said for Furia as well. Luminosity, I mean, pick your potion at the moment. Complexity are in the same bracket. It's only Exet that are really, really solid at the moment, but I think the surprise for me at the moment, just looking at the overall leaderboards, is FaZe. FaZe down in 18th. I mean, they were right at the tippity top of the leaderboards, the overall leaderboards coming into today, and just struggling to find a little bit of form at the moment.
Yeah, and I feel as if FaZe being at the top of the leaderboards kind of gives them that little bit of comfort. Like, you can have a bad day, but I don't recommend it. I mean, you can definitely work around it, but with a lot of these bubble teams looking to have standout performances and find themselves nestled inside that top 11 comfortably, I just don't necessarily. But honestly, no one's perfect. People have bad days. It happens to everyone, to be honest.
Yeah, it's true, but I mean, my theory on this is like everyone kind of, I think, was a little bit surprised that FaZe came out that quickly out of the gates in Pro League and had that much success. And I'm sure that teams have paid a little bit more attention to how they're trying to rotate around the map and what positions they're trying to kind of lock down towards that end game. And if you perform well, people put a target on your back. And I think the FaZe are going to have to deal with that next stage of evolution now.
Look, I mean, I'm not saying TSM had a target on their back or anything the first couple match days and have finally succeeded, but we do have 2 more maps lying in wait for North America. So we are going to cut to a quick break. And when we come back, match number 5.
WD Black, the official storage partner of the Apex Legends Global Series.
Monster Energy, the official energy drink of the Apex Legends Global Series. Well, it is time. Onset Gaskin had so many questions here for the North American region of the Apex Legends Global Series. We've had 4 maps underway with just 2 more to go. Can TSM begin and finish that redemption arc that they have begun today? Well, I mean, I guess we got to figure it out. I'm going to kick it over to the legendary duo, Onset and Gaskin, to bring you through all the action.
You have a nice break?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it was really good. Thanks. Yeah.
Cool.
How are you?
I just wanted to check. I'm good, man. I missed you. You know, Tiff did a great job, but I'm just saying I missed you. Let's get into the games then. Let's talk. It's a nice easer over now. Let's talk about game number 5 because Storm Point is waiting for us, Dan. And I tell you what, the leaderboards make very interesting reading. I will say that it's looking like TSM's plot armor is thicker than I even imagined it could be after today's performance. But with 2 games to go, I've got my eyes on Furia. I think they've been playing extremely well today.
They really have. I've been so impressed. I think that the teams that we highlighted as those that maybe needed to step up today have stepped up. Perhaps that's a bad thing for all the teams that are around one another because they all seem to be doing it at the same time. You would have hoped that someone would still be dropping off or someone still wouldn't be performing, so then you could leapfrog them, you could take advantage of it. But it's teams that maybe at the top that were performing are not performing. You mentioned it, FaZe haven't got going today. Maybe the circles haven't been great for them. Maybe a couple of team fights there's been mistakes. We'll have to watch back from their POV a little bit more, but seeing that circle and FaZe being at Launchpad, and they also have ring console information if they want, beacon information and ring console information if they want it, maybe this could be a better opportunity for them.
Yeah, I mean, all the info you could possibly want. The question is, do you hit it both at once as we head up towards Thunderwatch? This is going to be a very interesting zone for sure. I wonder if it's going to pull slightly south or if we are going to finish just to the north of Thunderwatch, a zone that we saw maybe a little bit earlier today in EMEA, where it was Jailings, I think, who actually managed to close out the win, holding down that northern side of Thunderwatch for quite some time. Yeah,
it wasn't it. It was just the choke, right? North of Stormcatcher, south of Thunderwatch. It's a circle that we see finish right in that choke quite often. And it's a difficult one to hold early because there's not really a position you can hold because there's just kind of mountain rocks that you can get behind, but then you're vulnerable. So you either choose to hold Stormcatcher or Thunderwatch, or we saw some teams even in Command Center for quite some time. And then as the circle closes, you start to make your way to the little in-between choke and hope you can find a position on the high ground, of course, because as you mentioned, it was Jailings who had the high ground in that one. TSM, though, they will look at that circle and say, well, this isn't so bad for us. We are at the most northern point now. We get to high point. If they can just make their way slowly down to Thunderwatch, I think they'll be pretty happy. And they only need some average games here now. Bang average games for TSM, and they should still top this group. Okay, maybe top 2 guaranteed, but they could still top it even with bang average games.
Yeah, I think topping it is imperative at this point for TSM because the extra points you're obviously going to pick up, and the fact that they're lagging behind, that means they need every single point that they can get going their way. You can see Seer, and that's going to be Reps. He's going to be heading over to get a little bit of information for them on where everybody else is on the map. But the fact that they've left so early, you can tell by the lack of attachments and even, you know, ammo. Haven't done any crafting on their way. It's all about getting to zone because they're going to have priority to it for TSM. Is a smart thing to do in the position they find themselves in.
Yeah, and even though, as you say, TSM won't have ring console information, but because they've used the survey beacon, they can get a rough idea. They will see the teams that are there or thereabouts around Thunderwatch. They would have maybe noticed the patterns of where people have moved as well, because they would know, for example, Sentinels were up at High Watch, but now they have moved a little bit further. So there's going to be a lot of room for TSM to play here. High point is what I mean, obviously not High Watch, but we are going to be able to see TSM just really attack this zone from the northern side, and we'll have to see how they are going to play it. FaZe, I think we should keep eyes on FaZe this game, because it has to be this game really where they have a really good game to get themselves back into the question. I mean, I know they don't need a great week, they don't need a great round because they're so far ahead at the moment, but they won't want to drop off too far.
Well, there's a little scrap going down here, and it's going to be going down a checkpoint, and we're going to have to see if there's a checkmate for one of these teams, if they can pick up those kills, and it looks like Naughty is going to be the first one to fall. It's going to be the Meat Lovers who are starting the churner once again. Funk, though, is going to fall, and there's a couple of shots going into the back from a distance, so Lanimals, even though they've gone down, and completely gone down now, Meat Lovers have got to be quick to reset here, as they're caught off guard. Meat Lovers, who have been, I would say, the surprise package, I think it's fair to say, of the Pro League so far, but there's a jump scare, but it doesn't matter. Oh, it does matter, actually, because even with 158 spray, BBB will come in and clean up the pieces.
Yeah, Designful might have taken a little bit of a tickle there, but he just dusts it off and says, all right, it's fine. There's no need to worry. We were just going to make sure we thirded correctly. And yeah, for all that effort in that fight with the purple shields, not able to reset a perfect use of the Seer Q to deny the res was massive there for BBB. And these are the kind of areas that we were talking about, the choke points that are available on this eastern side of the map. If you can hold the high ground here, that means you're going to be in a better position when that circle starts to pull towards you.
Sharp intake of breath you might have heard coming from me there. FaZe eliminated already, and a zone that maybe they had pretty good priority for. They had everything in the POI you could have asked for, like you say. They had every single piece of information that you could have wanted available to them, and they just don't make a smart rotate and they get cut down. It's tough to see sometimes, but FaZe continuing, unfortunately, to have a little bit of a slow day as TSM now make their way right from the northern side of things inside of Thunderwatch. Now, this is a position with two teams on top of each other, which kind of takes me back to a LAN environment, Dan.
It does, yeah. TSM played a circle very similar to this, of course, where they had to move east, did move east, and then won the Split 1 playoffs because of it. And they held this building that they're on for a long time in that game back on LAN, as well as Zach Meza will get the knock onto Stomps, because BBB are looking like they might try and push this advantage because the charge rifle's done the initial knock. Why not pick up the KP after?
BBB looking to play aggressive on edge here, kind of liking what I'm seeing. CQ going to come in as well. They know there's a couple of players maybe looking to loop back in and around zone. Designful's going in with the portal as well to see if he can get a cheeky angle on that player before he gets around this corner. Maybe just cut him down, but it's dropping Gaming, who are running for their lives at the moment. They lost that one player, Stompy's, like you say. And Stunny's going to have to wait here and heal. You have to keep an eye on the white med. You can see he's got 2 med kits in the back. In the backpack, I say. In the back of the backpack. Maybe even the front. Who knows? But TSM, not looking good for them right now as Xset make the push. They have the shield advantage. They destroy that exhibit as well, and TSM are going to have to do something special to hold off this push.
Well, Xset had the player advantage. Verhulst does equal things up, and now it's Verhulst in a 1 versus 2, which he cannot win, and Xset take down TSM. So this is now a great opportunity for Xset and the rest of the lobby to catch up TSM a little bit in this game.
Big win from Xset for sure. Had the armor advantage going into that. Might got an armor check as well using that CAQ to see it was a good time to push. Forever Free Agent just kind of occupying the other side of Thunderwatch for now, and they're going to have a consistent prod battle, you would imagine, with Xset from range, if they do have any range. And of course, you can see that Shuby's got a G7 Scout, which is the perfect weapon to poke and prod across from and level up those Evo shields. But Xset on the eastern side of this building now, and should have a pretty solid place to play from. If they can deal with the team across them early, that would be extremely good for them if they get an armor check and see they may have an advantage or get a little bit of damage done. But always crossing from this position is dangerous if you don't get enough damage before you try and cross and you get cut down.
Yeah, I think Xset will look at this and say, we've done enough now. We can hold this side of the building. As long as no one gets too aggressive, we can probably reside here for quite some time. And they should be able to position themselves to at least get top 10, if not even think about top 5 with where this circle is most likely going. Excuse me, for all the teams that are on the southern side, they're still making their way up. Well, I say all of them. There are 2 teams who are still making their way in. Tripods being one of them. Luminosity now going to make their way at least towards the first part of the southern side of this zone. They're still most likely going to have to go further than this, as, well, that's a quick catalyst wall to stop this push coming through, but now they're going to have to try and push on 4.
Yeah, they don't care about the wall. They want to go in. They want to isolate this one player. But the problem is, if it takes a few seconds too long, all of a sudden your opponents can regain. They can put themselves in better positions. But LG look like they might be in a position to equal up this fight a little bit. You can see one player has been taken down on either side. Easel's trying to hold the line at the moment. There's an Arcstar in front of him stuck on that box, but he's got a knockdown shield to play with. And now Jet from Team Inters, unfortunately, even though they got that first damage done, finds himself on his own against 2 members of Luminosity.
And I think there was going to be a res there as well, being made by Luminosity, so jetting out of there, quite rightly so, because LG, it was such an aggressive push. And I don't know whether it was just a case of Team Inters weren't really prepared for it. You suddenly saw the panic of the cat wall come in onto the door. But LG said, you know what, screw the door, kick it down, let's get in, let's get involved, let's get in the face, because if we're going to have any chance of winning this game, we have to win this fight. And I think we've seen a lot of that today. We've seen a lot of teams who recognize that they have to take risks in certain areas, otherwise they're just going to be kind of running aimlessly around the map and be so vulnerable to all the teams who have already got position.
LG have complete control of the southern side of the zone for now. Tripods are the closest team to them, and they're about 500 yards away, so it's going to be quite some time until they maybe potentially have to engage. And We know that the zone is going to be moving north from where Luminosity do find themselves for now, but they, having picked up those KP, can kind of just make sure that they own the southern side of the zone. They can then walk in, see what's in front of them, but it's such a tough rotate uphill towards Thunderwatch. We know that, we've seen it, and that's why you're seeing so many teams wrap all the way around zone towards the north side. And if you're LG right now and you know that there's going to be a lot of teams fighting for that northern side, it might actually create a little bit of a path for you to move up kind of unnoticed towards the north.
And that's the thing, even though the TSM didn't have beacon information, for example, when they made their rotation, they didn't have the ring locator, ring console, that's the one I was looking for. They were always going to start north. I think if you're on Storm Point, as long as you can get as far north as possible uncontested, you start north and then work your way down in any circle, just because you are always then fighting from the high ground, not having to fight your way up. There are a few teams that have tried to force their way east, TD being one of those. Tripods are now making their way on the western side as well, and we are close to having all 16 squads in this Zone 2 circle. I think it's 15 now are inside, just one who's not. So there's not much room to be playing for. So when this next zone pull, when we get the next zone information, we're going to see a big change in knowing how this game is going to go.
Yeah, it looks like everybody pretty much apart from, I think BBB might be able to actually sneak into zone on the north side. It's just Dig at the moment, who we did see lose a player a little bit earlier on to BBB, who have managed to get back into the game, who are going to be late to where this circle is closing. So I think we're going to see a very, very quiet next zone. It's when that next zone starts to really encroach upon Thunderwatch that a lot of teams are going to be cut down. And that's been the story of today. The lobbies have been extremely high quality. Everybody's tried to find a spot to play because everyone, like you mentioned earlier, it's very simple to say out loud. Everyone needs points. And everybody needs maximum points. That means winning a game, and it's very rare that you're going to be able to play edge, kind of farm everyone and walk your way in. You've got to try and put yourself in a good position early.
And as you can see there on the next zone information we've just been given, there's about, what, 10 teams who aren't going to be in that circle over towards Thunderwatch. So, Onset completely right. That's when Carnage is going to start to unfold. You're going to have several teams pushing from Stormcatcher. You're going to have command center teams actually making their way out. Maybe you could go for a Valkyrie ultimate just to get over teams as well. And then you've got all the teams that have come down from High Point also going to be making their way in. So this is going to be very difficult, and you're completely right. A very, very similar zone to the TSM winning zone that we had back at the Split 1 playoffs, but no TSM to try and replicate.
I was going to say, they ain't winning it this time. That's one thing we can't guarantee. I'm sure, to be honest, they would much rather not win this game than playoffs, finals. So, you know, swings and roundabouts, you take what you can get. But Team Diverge, they're having to move up now from the southern side of this zone, and they're going to have Senox and Slayer in front of them from SES, maybe thinking about holding them out. They're certainly watching that, and Complexity are waiting in the wings as well if this fight takes a little bit longer than they would have wanted. Team Inters have been eliminated. Unfortunately for Paul McCartney's favourite player, Jet has finally fallen. So Team Inters will be the 5th squad to be eliminated again. It always makes me laugh, by the way, when I have to do basic math. And I'm like, even then, it takes me a pause. I'm like, okay, wait, 5, 25, yeah, 15. Yeah, they're 5th. Okay, we got there.
At least you're making progression. That's what matters.
I'm really trying, everyone. Look, not everyone's good at everything, okay? And it's good. That's fine.
I think Tiff said it earlier. You know, everyone makes mistakes, but today you've not made them. All right, your maths are okay. Just don't try and go for something a little bit heavier, because then that's when mistakes might start to kick in. But 15 squads means placement points. Everyone's got 1. At least everyone can start to look to chunk towards whatever their end goal is today. I'd say most teams have a rough amount of what they would like to achieve in a day and where they think that will take them. If they're just aiming for top 5, whether they think they're going to aim for top 3. There'll be some teams who are just happy for getting into the top 10 and picking up a certain amount of points from the day's play. But Luminosity, they have the high ground, and the exhibit goes down. They know a team's in the area.
We've also got one player completely soloed out here. Flesh damage being done. It's only going to take a few more bullets for that player to fall. One team to keep your eye on as well is Sentinels. Sentinels are set up bang inside of where this zone is going to be going. So Sentinels making a really good call, RK, and putting them in a great position as TD run into Luminosity. And the Digi threat for Jaguares is always going to be coming out on top in that kind of smoke battle. Sleepy Panda now trying to get out of there, trying to run, trying to just survive. But with 15 squads remaining and how tough this zone is going to be able to get into, Dan, with 3 players, it's going to be rough, let alone 2.
I've been working on my languages. Jaguares. There you go.
Oh, yeah. Yep, that's true.
Yeah. Rather than it being like a jaguar, but... See, maybe I'm not into math, but I can do languages now. Anyway, Luminosity are going to be moving up a little bit further. I am really impressed, by the way, with what Luminosity have done today. When we said that they were one of the teams that maybe haven't been as good as they were in Split 1, even though they showed, you know, moments of promise, moments of being that Split 1 team who dominated Stormpoint, by the way. Luminosity were arguably the best Stormpoint team going into Split 1 playoffs just based off statistics alone. And I wonder whether we're going to start to see a little bit more of that. They do have a big old effort to get up this hill. We'll have to see how their journey goes down a little bit later, because BBB, they've managed to get one taken down. Designful has fallen, so it's down to Zach Mazer and Chaotic.
Trying to just clear this northern side of zone at the moment. You can see that they've got Fury in front of them. They're trying to hold them back as well. Designful, unfortunately, will not get to participate in the rest of this game, and they're certainly not going to be able to get his banner. But Zach Mazer and Co, they're going to be able to stabilize for now. They do have a rock to play behind, but you can also see that that charge rifle is traced on them. Any kind of angle that they give is going to be taken, and the question is, are Furia going to be confident enough with zone 4 to maybe wrap this zone behind them? Do they know it's a duo? It looks like Fury going to play the safer thing here. They're just going to decide to play their side of zone. Nick Merckx in the kill feed as well, taking down another member of Dig.
I'm scared of what's going to happen in about a minute and 20 seconds on set, if I'm honest with you. The kill feed is going to explode.
I'm going to take a deep breath.
Are probably going to explode. You might explode, in all honesty, with everything that's going to be happening. Yes, looking to try and explode onto a team as well here.
Get that knock. Dropping Gaming now eliminated. Team Diverge also eliminated. They were two of the teams who were trying to move from the southern side of this zone up this treacherous hill, and SES were holding this out for quite some time. So first objective is complete for SES. They get the KP, but now they have to work their way back up. And who's going to be waiting for them? It's going to be Complexity, but they do have a little bit of space here, and they might just about be able to sneak around that corner.
I wonder if Ascend are going to be watching this game back and maybe just having flashbacks as well. And what
could have been?
What could have been for the Ascend roster, and I'm sure they'll get another attempt at it at the Split 2 playoffs with how they've been playing so far in the EMEA region. If you didn't catch all the games earlier, Ascend still looking consistent from that region. But now Tripods are going to be moving and are looking to try and play under this building. I'm getting so many flashbacks of LAN. The amount of teams that tried to play under here and then were just griefed by everyone else who was in the area. It was so difficult to watch. But 9 seconds, this circle is going to start to close. This entire building is only going to leave a slither left. And Exet are probably the one team who has the prime position to hold on to that. But remember, TSM back at LAN, they took the high ground here on this building when this circle started to close. We'll see whether anyone does something quite similar here.
Well, Exet have just got to be careful to stay healthy in this position. You can see the exhibit's going to go down as well. LTC are going to make that run to the high ground. They do have the Valkyrie as well, so maybe they're going to be thinking about a Valcol, kind of imitating what we saw from TSM, or maybe they're going to think KP for sale over here, and they want to take advantage of the bargains. LTC with the charge rifle aren't able to get the knocks, and as that zone starts to close, maybe now is the time for them to pick up that KP. Oxygen do fall. BBB are eliminated as well. And Sentinels, who were in such a good position for so long, Dan, well, they're on the back foot as well. Rise fall in the meantime. And all of a sudden, Dan, the lobby has been cut in half. And Sentinels, who've been sat center zone all game, will not get to compete in this end game.
It just seems unfair when the charge rifle is shooting you from 10 times from that far as well. But LTC using the exhibit, a very interesting decision at this point, because that means they might not have the exhibit for the latter stages. But I guess they're thinking, look, we need to stay alive. Maybe it's going to be too hard to get east and get to this next zone. As Luminosity, still going by foot, have found their way into this next circle. 7 squads left. Native were the last one to be eliminated. Luminosity at full reds and are looking up towards this building, hoping that maybe they don't get focused here. And you can see the rapid pings of saying, this is where we probably could play. This is maybe where we have to play. But at the moment for LG, it's about just avoiding this charge rifle from Sang, because he has been an absolute nuisance as he hits again for another 24.
Your boy being a menace. SCS eliminated. LTC still holding this high ground and trying to do damage onto Luminosity down just below them. But 30 seconds means that everybody has to leave. And the earlier that you manage to kind of escape and get ahead of the traffic, the more likely your chances of winning this game become. One of those teams inside the building still is Exet. Do they play for KP? Do they try and win this game? Maybe with a crazy late rotation. For LTC, though, they're just griefing the whole lobby at the moment. Even though it's just 3s, even though it's only 20s, it's causing problems for everyone.
And I guess bad news for TSM. The teams that are still alive, Furia, Complexity, Luminosity, Exet, that is 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th in the standings at the moment. All of them have the opportunity to push TSM off 1st place going into match number 6 if they were to pick up a few more points here. But it is LTC who are just being that nuisance, that thorn in the side, but now they are forced to move. The Dark Veils start to come out, everyone trying to make their journey in.
Well, it looks like Xset have created a little bit of a runway. You can see they're just kind of walking. They're covered on both sides. On the other side of things, you can see that LG are under pressure, and LG will actually win that fight against LTC. Can they get the shield swap? Yes, they can. Yanya will get himself dressed back up in red as you see the kill feed once again sees teams getting cut down left, right, center. Tripods versus Xset as well. Deeds flying in to try and finish on Nocturnal. Xset will fall, and LG again pick up yet more KP here.
So we've got 3 teams left. All 3 of them are in the top 5 right now. Furia now take first place off of TSM here in match number 5 just by getting into that top 3. Now it's down to 2 as Luminosity get eliminated. It's Complexity, it's Furia, it's a 3 versus 3.
It's a 3 versus 3 once again, and let me tell you, stories have been written about this rock and end games just to the north of this POI. Here's Watson. He's got a slow hill here, and Complexity aren't going to let that happen. They know they got the damage, and Monsoon says, boys, we're going in. We want to take home the win. And now Cody is left on his own to clean up the mess. Complexity with their second win of the day. And I love that play call from Monsoon. You know he is saying, I have got damage. We fly on this, boys. We take home the win.
Crazy the amount of flashbacks I'm having when Kashira walks up on that rock and maybe didn't do that amount of damage, and that is the difference that can happen when you've got someone who does hit those shots in that moment. Very different online to on LAN though, I will say. You know, the pressure may be slightly off, but Complexity, they're up to 61 points. They take first place off the TSM. Furia now in second. TSM dropped down to third. It is as tight as you can imagine at the top of this leaderboard after match number 5.
Absolutely crazy. And like you say, TSM after the previous game probably thinking, oh cool, we're in first place, we're looking good, a couple more points from the last 2 games, and all of a sudden we're in first place. Well, now game 6 becomes a completely different thing for all of the teams at the top of the table, including Xset, by the way, who had another pretty good game there. We'll bring Tiff back into it to talk about things, because I mean, I've got to say, there's been a lot of talk about Furia, TSM, understandably, in the games they have had. Xset, but Complexity today have been one of the best teams in all of the lobby.
Look, I mean, we had so many chances to talk to Monsoon in London, and just how excited he was for the future. To see him have 2 wins today here in match day number 5, I love it. I do.
I think the thing that not a lot of people will know as well, and you know, Monsoon, we were talking to him backstage. Obviously, he jumped on the desk with us. Mon, one of the loveliest guys you'll ever meet, by the way, and I mean that genuinely. And he was saying, you know, it's been a really tough season. I don't know what's next. I really want to have an opportunity to prove myself as an IGL, as a player. I'm not ready to, you know, rest up yet and do something different. And when you hear those stories from people and then you see the hard work paying off, like Complexity showing in these performances, it really kind of warms the heart a little bit, because you know how much is going into it. I think Complexity, one of those teams, obviously people are rooting for them. Obviously people love Monsoon, but he's found 2 players who believe in him as an IGL. And I think now they've got that trust that they're showing the progress they're making.
It's to me, it's been rather tough, right? Luda kind of going through the gauntlet, changing a lot of different rosters. So this Complexity roster, they have completely changed up their nature. They used to be an extremely heavy zone team, started off hardcore edge Gaskin, and now I feel like they're finally finding their strides.
Yeah, I think that you look at this squad and you look at what they're able to achieve, you've just got to take your hat off to them. I think that a lot of teams and players have gone through hardships. A lot of teams and players have maybe had their backs against the wall where they probably think, you know, am I done? Is this where I go now? Like, do we just give up? Do I go for a new team? Do I think about retirement and what's next? And I have to just respect the fact that people do make sure they go back to the drawing board. They find a team that works. And then when you find your success, that tastes even better, you know?
Well, it definitely works out. They found 2 victories thus far today. Can we see a third? Because I feel like that would be rather exciting. So let's go ahead, cue the match highlights, because this is map number 5. We literally have one more map underway. TSM goes out rather early. Lanimals are having a tough time. Alb is out here bringing the Sheila into every engagement humanly possible. But Meat, they are grinding up the Lanimals here on set.
They are, and I think one thing that I noticed in that game was there was a few more aggressive early pushes from some teams like BBB, like Lanimals, and that comes from a little bit of desperation for points. I think when you see that change of game plan, you see them more, you know, happy to take those early engagements, or maybe more feeling more pressured because of the points that they've missed out on in the previous games. But a very tough zone for the teams that land down on the south side of things. I was impressed that Xset managed to make such a quick rotation to get into the good spot that they did, much like we saw on the rough zones for them on World's Edge. They just seem to, I don't know how they do it sometimes, but they just seem to be so quick to traverse the map to get into the spot they want to play. But LG as well kind of went about their business. They were shredding through a lot of the teams in this endgame and really did well to work themselves into a good spot after a difficult rotation.
Look, and it was Monsoon being that entry fragging self, making the calls on the play, and then just full sending it with no doubt in their mind, and it paid off because they took the victory. But not only that, they did it in an absolute dominating fashion. 13 eliminations, 25 total points on their second win of the day. But granted, yes, good job, Furia. I see you there. But Luminosity, another one of those bubble teams, Gaskin, that needed to have stellar performances on the day. 12 eliminations.
Honestly, it was crazy going into that final circle. 4 of the 5 teams that were there were in the top 5 of the overall standards. The consistency we've seen today from these teams who needed to show it has been incredible to watch. When your back is up against the wall and you are forced to have a good round, it's crazy what it can do to your mentality and to some of your decisions in those moments. But that's the second half of the leaderboard. BBB still got 4 kills, but unfortunately couldn't get those placements. And because the kills were kind of so heavily farmed by the top teams, it means the lower half of this leaderboard is pretty dull when it comes to points scored.
I mean, there were 2 teams in particular that held double-digit eliminations, so I'm curious to see how that shakes up the series results.
Wow.
Complexity. This is the day that they have asked for. Now reigning supreme, 61 points with 1 game left. Can they hold on to it? Furia just kind of looking to close the gap, 5 points shy, and then just below them, Luminosity 1 point away from TSM, and then an 11-point gap between 4th and 5th. This is going to be one of the gnarliest game 6s I have ever seen.
I mean, coming into today, Complexity were sat in 13th outside of those qualification spots. Furia 16th, TSM 18th. You go down to LG 23rd. All 4 of those teams were outside of the qualification spaces for the next LAN for playoffs. If, you know, the games were to finish there and then. The difference now between finishing 3rd and 4th for those teams is immense. Like, it might not sound much in the leaderboards, but the amount of points that you're allocated for those placements is such a difference between 1st and 4th. This is one of the biggest game 6s I think we're going to see this season, because it can completely change how happy a team is when it's all said and done and they fired their final bullet, or how frustrated or missing out on an opportunity they're going to be.
Well, I mean, one of the biggest game 6s. I'm excited. I'm ready. But before that, we're going to cut to a quick break. So you just have to wait a little bit longer, but hold on tight, grab some popcorn, get some hydration, because I know you guys are all sweating it out. Game number 6 when we come back.
WD Black, the official storage partner of the Apex Legends Global Series.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to one of the most important game 6s I think we're going to see in quite some time. It has been a topsy-turvy day with the leaderboards, and I feel like this game is going to separate the legends from those who are going to be left as a footnote, Dan, because this is where the pressure could not be higher on these teams to perform. The top 4 is so close. The top 5 is so close. But the difference in 1st and 5th for those teams who are in that conversation, it could be season defining for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're talking, it could be the difference between playoffs or not when it all comes down to it. Like, if you can get a 25-pointer from any of these match weeks, you really are giving yourself the best of chances of getting to playoffs. I think that most teams who win a match week, or sorry, a match day, should realistically be able to bounce off that, have that momentum, and get to land because of it. It's not a guarantee, but it's just the likelihood because it's such a stark difference, as you say, from that first place when you start to barrel it down to second and onward. What's crazy to me is the consistency we're seeing from the teams who are in the top 5. The fact that it was that close, 4 of the top 5 teams being in the top 5 of the overall standings. If we were to see something like that again, I mean, I'm going to have to get my calculators out and start doing maths, and I'm probably going to have my brain explode as I'll try and keep on top of it. But that's what I live for, right? That's what makes Apex so exciting in these moments when we're trying to work out who's going to be finishing first, who needs to get that extra bit of KP, who needs to get that extra placement. Match 6 is about to be underway. And I tell you what, Stormpoint has provided so much entertainment today, and I can guarantee you we've got more coming up.
Oh, we've got plenty more coming your way. It's the final match of today in the Apex Legends Global Series. North America has been nothing short of superb, but there is nowhere near an ending to the story. We have so many things to find out, to sort out, and we're going to see who separates themselves as some of the best in the world in just one game of Apex Legends. Now, what's the most important thing we want to see when this map pops up as the teams take their way down into Stormpoint? That zone, Dan, it could be season defining. It's crazy to say because we've got 4 days left, but it really could be.
It really could be. I mean, it sounds odd to be saying it this early, but we know full well how big the points difference could be. And okay, so it's a pretty fair circle, I'd say, for the majority of the map, somewhat central. So it's not going to be like a far northern zone or a far southwest zone or a far southeast zone. Everyone's going to have to fight pretty hard. But in terms of the POIs that are going to be there, okay, that's a different kind of circle. That is going to be a shift over towards checkpoint. So maybe it is going to be slightly northwest. Does favor the likes of Meat, obviously, who are going to be dropping at checkpoint. And one for Xset, actually. We've not seen too many close circles for Xset today. This could arguably want to be one of their best zone pools.
This is going to be a tough one for a lot of teams, though, just because of the chokes that surround checkpoint. I mean, you're looking at the POI, you're looking at where that zone's going. Look at the mountainous area that just surrounds checkpoint. I mean, Meat, you're going to be able to gatekeep all the teams that are coming in from the north side. Everyone's going to try and rotate, I think, around to the south side just because of that fact. And it's certainly going to be a nervy one. I think we're going to see some desperate Valcolts maybe towards the end game. We're going to see some teams having to take 3v3 engagements where there's always going to be third parties in and around. And I tell you what, Dan, it's a deadly zone for our final game here. You are going to have to work. If you want to call yourself a winner today, you want to take home that first place, you are going to have to work as hard as you could be asked to.
Yeah, it's not going to be gifted to you here, that is for sure. And we're starting to see more of a solid baseline for legend selection as well. It usually happens when you get to match number 6. I mean, Seer at 18 picks, a 90% pick rate. I think that's guaranteed now at this point. It's not quite the 100% we had the other week. And Valkyrie, we've got an 80% pick rate on her. So for the most part, it's Seer and Valkyrie plus whatever your flex is. Is it going to be Catalyst? Is it a Bangalore? Are you going to throw a Wraith in there? Everyone seems to be trying something a little bit different, and it all comes down to your playstyles and what is going to work for you. With a zone like this, I mean, you could argue a Wraith could really help get you through one of those chokes, but because you've got the Valkyrie, at least you've always got that kind of plan B. You've got that panic button that you can hit if things aren't going well.
Well, TSM, obviously going to be a team that we have to keep our eyes on for so many reasons we've explained today. I don't have to go through them once again, but this is potentially a season-defining game for them. The good news for them, they do have a crafter at their POI, so they can manage to level up those evos without taking too much of a worrisome trip towards a fight that they have to kind of try and take from distance and do some poke damage. It's going to be difficult for them to get prior to that zone for sure, but Dropping Gaming, who have had a little bit of a slow day so far, well, they've spotted out Lattimals and they've done some good damage on the crosshair.
Great damage, really. And Dropping Gaming always seem to be the team who is giving us some action in the early stages. And I'm not really going to complain because it gives us something to watch when a lot of the other teams are just making their rotations or just going through their looting phase. They've not had the best of days, though. Unfortunately for DIG, they've been griefed, they've been bruised, they've been battered, but at least they'll come away with a lot of memories of Luminosity, for the most part, ruining their day. are the other teams that have maybe not had the best of days. TD, they're in the kill feed as well, so maybe some early fights happening on that side.
Speaking of early fights, if you wanted an early fight, Complexity and TSM are exchanging fire at the moment as they both try and rotate out of the wall. Looks like TSM have beaten Complexity to the buildings, and Complexity, who we jump on board with immediately, decide, you know what, we don't want a piece of this. We want to take the spiders, we're going to take a little bit of loot, and we're going to make sure that we go into that end game, because their end game calls today, Dan, have been very, very impressive. 2 wins. You had, of course, Luda making that rat play as well, right towards the end game. Fantastically, excuse me, it was Cody, no disrespect to him, who made that rat play on Storm Point as well to take them into a top 5 position. And now you can see both teams kind of standing off each other, deciding this is not worth it for both of us right now to take this engagement.
And I think both of the teams will be well aware that once they arrive to checkpoint, there's not really going to be any room in the end. There's not going to be anywhere to play. And when you're trying to win today, you are going for the win. There isn't really that consideration of, oh, well, we could maybe play edge and get a few KP here or there. Neither team will want to play that style, because then you just give the opportunity for someone else to take these potential 25 points off of you. You kind of have to go for the win at this point and put yourself in the best possible position to do so.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. It's not just a case of getting a couple of points on the board and going, hey, we won today. It's, you have to be almost perfect. You have to win the game, or you have to hope that your opponents don't. Complexity going to use that survey beacon, a little bit of change of their rotation to make sure they get the information on where they want to play. And let me tell you, if we do have the opportunity to bring up the map overhead, it is absolutely stacked at the moment over towards checkpoint. I could barely make out what teams are there just because there's so many teams on top of each other.
Well, there's 20 squads left, and I can only see 5 squads who aren't in checkpoint. So that gives you an idea. There you go. It's just carnage. It's insane. And everyone is sitting on top of each other quite literally at that point, whether they're sharing a building, whether they're sharing a blade of grass, or even just a rock to hide from one another. Wherever they've been able to find a place to play, those who are on checkpoint are going to be staying there and hoping that they can at least worm their way into, what, minimum top 10 for some good placement points.
And the other fascinating thing is as well, the only teams, I think that XZ have actually managed to make their way, and you mentioned they did have good priority to this zone, but TSM, they're not there. Complexity, they're not there. Furia, they're not there. So 3 teams who have been absolutely superb and at the top of our leaderboards today are not inside of where that zone is going to be pulling. So questions are certainly going to be asked. But Forever Free Agent, they're in a little scrap at the moment. Madness is trying to slide in and do a little bit of damage with that Peacekeeper. They do get that first knock. Rambo also in the kill feed as well. This is, again, another important day for Sentinels. You know, they need to win this game if they want to stand a chance of making it to LAN.
Which is kind of crazy, really, to be even saying that on day number 5, but we've mentioned it a couple of times on the broadcast today. You don't play every single day, every single game day. So instead, you have to take advantage when you are going to be on there. 3 different groups that we have. We have A, B, and C. There's always going to be one group who has a day off. At the moment, it's Group B, who are just kind of watching in the wings. We've heard from a few of the pros who jumped on in. 100 Thieves, Omnu, he came in and he'll just be kind of watching, maybe sitting back, maybe happy with what he's seeing so far, because a lot of the teams that were at the top, near 100 Thieves, haven't necessarily been performing so well.
Oxygen Esports are one of those teams who are in where they believe this end zone is going to be going. This is just the south of checkpoint. There's a couple of buildings that can be played down there. Tripods trying to make their way, maybe looking for a third-party opportunity around that spider cave. Deeds is going to take a bit of damage off of Height, and his 2 teammates are going to retreat to him now to try and reset. But I've got to be honest, if you're watching right now and you're kind of thinking, hey, there's no real action going on, nobody's really taking any risks. It's not that kind of game here. Too much is on the line for teams to take risks at this point in the game. Everybody, like Dan really, really beautifully put, has to win this game, has to think about winning this game if they want to win the group.
And it's not just the fight for first as well. There are teams who can only really get maybe top 6 here. And those points could still be vital, not even just for playoffs, but maybe for their season so they're not in relegation. There's so much that's on the line that, as you say, no one can afford to take those risks. And it will be a case that eventually you have to take a risk because you're going to be forced to. Your back will quite literally be against the zone at some point, and it's going to be a do or die moment of, well, do we go for broke here, or do we just try and pick up the pieces? Speaking of going for broke, TSM are going to make their move. The Skyward Dive comes through. I'm interested to see where they try and go here.
Oh, this is so risky. We mentioned how stacked checkpoint is. Spider Cave is the call. Is there going to be anyone down here? No. You have to say that is an extremely successful Valk ult coming in from TSM. Verholst manages to thread the needle and bring both Reps and How down alongside him. And that's really important because Exit were trying to hold them out. They were holding that choke. They had the high ground. They couldn't have afforded to walk up that hill without taking damage. So TSM, even though it's not what you would call a great place, they don't have a lot of lines of sight out to do damage. They will survive for now.
So 11 points currently separate TSM and Exet in 4th and 5th. 10 points separate TSM and Complexity in 1st and 4th. So it's
crazy.
Very much tight at the top of this leaderboard. Maybe Exet are a little bit too far off Complexity for them really to have a chance of winning this match day, but they could certainly disrupt things when they look at the top 3. As for TSM, it is going to be a little ways to go for them to think about winning, but still entirely possible. The front runners, Complexity and Furia, are only separated by 5 points, so this is going to come right down to the wire, and every little bit of KP, every placement point is going to matter.
Well, Exet want to do a little bit of damage here. And Exet have also got to be aware that Furia have taken that choke where TSM were playing before that Valkyrie. So Exet, Furia, and TSM essentially neighbors at this point, but Furia thought better of this and they're going to take a little bit of a different rotation. It's always fascinating how in these lobbies you end up with the three, four teams who are kind of desperate to perform, desperate to take home a first place, end up right next to each other as neighbors, and it's almost the fight that decides it. But that's where we find ourselves once again. Complexity taking a little bit of a different approach to this one though, Dan. Everybody inside a checkpoint. Complexity, one of those teams who aren't. They're on the western side of where that zone is at the moment as Meat Lovers get a cheeky little knock onto BBB, who have had one of those up and down days. I mentioned how they had a good day last year and these two teams met up. Well, today has not been as good.
A lot of teams now being forced to make their rotation in. It's going to be Furia now, second place as it stands. And where are they going to go? Well, somehow they found a little home in the train cart. So that is 2 skyward dives we've seen from 2 of our top 5 teams that have been successful. Remember, when you make these skyward dives, you have to have an idea of where you're going to go. Sure, you're going to have a pivot option and you're going to use the passive of Valkyrie to see what the lay of the land is, but TSM probably thought Spider Cave might be available. Let's go for that and see what happens. And I think that's the same there for Furia. So both of them have found a home in what is a very busy checkpoint.
At the moment, checkpoint, as you say, is extremely busy. There's not a lot of room for traffic to go through. And I'm pretty sure we're not seeing actually all the teams on the overhead right now to give you the full picture of how things are actually looking. There certainly are more teams in the vicinity. Some of them have actually moved away from checkpoint a little bit here. Lanimals, they're down on the eastern choke, just to the south. You've got Oxygen down outside of Stormpoint as well. Outside of checkpoint. And all these teams who are in checkpoint at the moment will have to move south at some point. It's not going to finish. It never, the POI itself never has a finish in it. So it's more likely to pull down towards those buildings where Oxygen find themselves. But here's a fight about to break out for the first time. We did see Team Inters fall out of the lobby first, but this is going to be one of the first times we see a straight 3v3 engagement, and it's LG versus Tripods.
Also, you know, shout out to Tripods, 8th position at the moment, 30 points. They've had a very successful match day, one of their most successful so far, and it could still get better, and it could start here with an engagement that is won and goes in their favor. Looks like they're going to back out of that one, though. They didn't fancy it, and instead they'll start to make their way into zone. It was LG who were on the other side. Understandably, I don't think I'd fancy pushing LG with how LG have been playing today either, but maybe triceps? Tripods don't know that. Come on, get to this spot. I was thinking about Nick Merckx and his triceps, I guess.
Yeah, that one's for the memory banks, but let's see if they can put that right, as now we're going to see Complexity make their move, and they have to. 55 seconds left on the clock. They're trying to isolate this fight inside of the tunnel to work their way through. No big damage being done for now. Want to make sure they're healthy before they do have to make this push. A couple of shots connected with this wingman though, Dan, and all of a sudden the push will be on. We saw how Monsoon committed to that fight in the endgame last time. They're not afraid to close that gap if they get the damage done.
Just a matter of getting rid of anything that might be a nuisance when you do push in. As long as you can keep on top of it. You just need Luda really to connect with a couple of headshots with that wingman, and we can see how different that can change a fight. How much of a fight can be changed by hitting those shots, should I say. But Complexity is still in first place as it stands. Tripods still being hunted by LG, and maybe this could be the ends of Tripods' day, as LG have found an angle.
Yeah, Deeds is going to be last alive here. It looks like this will be the end of the day, which has been a much improved day from Tripods. Luminosity just trying to move in, finish off the final participants, although it looks like that won't be the final participants. It looks like Nick Merckx has managed to escape for now, as we still have 19 squads in the lobby. Yanya trying to force a way in, and LG trying to force a way in as well. And Complexity, by the way, they're looking to oob someone right now. They're looking to really cause some problems for a team, and they're going to land up on this God Rock. And they're going to have to think about moving and a quick rotation. Maybe it's going to be the Valcolt, but are they healthy enough to hit this? Do they have it available? The answer is no. 14% for Luda on that Valcolt, and now Complexity are going to have to bulldoze their way through. They're going to have to bully, or maybe they're just going to be little snakes in the grass as they try and catch this team off guard.
Maybe there's an ultimate accelerant that can change things, and perhaps they can just all over, but this could be the third parties of all third parties. Complexity are going to get chunked away. They have to go soon, and they're going to send it in now.
Zone is causing problems for all of these teams. It's really going to hurt. You see the exhibits going down. Complexity know that they have to make something happen here. Maybe they left it too late on this rotation. The zone is going to take victims, but no, Monsoon somehow survives. FaZe eliminated, Complexity eliminated, as well as LG, and it's LTC Esports who take out all of these big names as they try and force their way in. And I kind of tried to highlight to everyone at home what a rough zone this is to rotate into. That's a great example. 4 teams trying to force their way through the same choke just to survive.
It looks to me like Complexity maybe just weren't able to get over the area they wanted to get. And unfortunately, they fell into a pretty rough position. That does mean Complexity will finish their day on 64 points. They do, however, on set, still have an 8-point lead over Furia in second place. So that is still a gap, right? They are still going to make Furia work for this one. As for LTC, what a day they've had. They're in 7th place, 33 points. They're only 1 point away from 6th. They're only 7 points away from a top 5. Very impressive last few games. It has been on Storm Point for them.
Yeah, certainly have. A team that's just impressed me full stop. There's a lot of talk about them coming into this season, saying they're a team that certainly stood out on their way towards the Pro League, and they're starting to prove it a little bit now. Always involved in good positions. One thing I like about them as well is they seem to have a clear game plan on how they want to approach zones and how they want to approach different maps. And certainly a team to watch as we move through the months, and expect to see a lot more of them. BBB have been eliminated as well. We're down to 14 squads now. But I'm taking a deep breath, because in 20 seconds time, every single team that is inside of checkpoint right now, and I'm talking Xset, Furia, Meet, TSM, they have to leave. The zone is going to close behind them. The zone is going to pull towards Lanimals in that eastern choke, like I mentioned. And this is going to be rough for some.
There's only 3 teams in this next circle. TD are making a wild rotation, by the way, on the western side of this map. And if they can manage to get in, that could be absolutely huge for their chances. But it might be a little bit too much to ask.
It's too late.
It's too late. You see there in the kill feed that I think TD are going to go down with a pretty dismal ending. But Xset are making their move. One's already gone down. Sykes and Fun fall. Just Nocturnal left, and he's going to be in the zone. He's going to tank the damage. He will go down. 12 squads remaining. Xset eliminated.
TSM trying to work their way through, and they're mirroring the move coming in from Fury as well. Are they going to be able to hit a Skyward dive and try and literally match them, or are they just going to try and push on to Meet? Fury make their play. They're landing on the roof. They're landing on the height. It is so exposed, though, from some other angles surrounding them. 11 squads now remaining. Dropping Gaming will fall. Sentinels will fall as well. A disappointing day for them. SCS fall into the top 9 with a placement point start to stack up.
So Fury now find themselves 5 points behind Complexity as they are starting to chunk up these placement points, and now they want to send up this building. Got to be careful though. Pandas just had a little poke, but maybe said, no, let's not send this just yet. I did not do enough damage.
Oxygen Esports eliminated in the meantime. Pandas with some great angles through the window. Doing so much damage. Albrelele's doing damage as well, holding down that eastern choke that we talked about. TSM lose one. Verholst on his own on an island. Has to take to the skies. This is the last roll of the dice here for TSM. How is going to have to watch alongside Reps as Verholst, the young man, takes to the skies. No shields to play with. Here's Watson has proved you can get to Masters without them. But can Verholst do something here for TSM that almost feels unbelievable?
I mean, 1 placement point could be a huge difference here for TSM. They are 1 point behind Luminosity, who are in 3rd right now, but it doesn't look like it's going to arrive. Verholst goes down, so TSM cannot finish higher than 4th place today. It's still good points, but is it enough when they definitely had it within their grasp of getting a big, chunky amount of points in today's match day? We're still looking at Furia, though. They're 4 points behind Complexity, and it is very much a possibility they could steal this one right to the death.
Furia. Sounds 60 points. Looking to add some more KP and some more placement points for sure. Here's Watson trying to do what he's done so well today, which is not be afraid to take space, to take a few angles and see if he can influence some other teams to pinch together, to do damage and create carnage across the map so his team can survive. And here's another example of it. You can see he wants to swing a little bit wider. He's still aware that maybe there's a team inside of that building, but Zeratricky has gone down, which is just going to slow down the moves now from Furia. Also, the res get cancelled. And Complexity might hold on if Furia cannot survive here.
Furia get the res. They get back up. Zeratricky, though, does he get a chance to reset? Doesn't look like it. Maybe a back could come off. Dark Veil comes down, and Furia just trying to stay alive here, just trying to escape. They just need placement points, but his Watson's the last player remaining.
It's not going to happen. Furia will be eliminated. Furia out of the lobby, and we're down to 5 now. Forever free agent. Just surviving, just hoping that they can force their way up the leaderboards as well. Reptile will not be taking part in this game, though. It's down to the last 2 there. And it's Meat Lovers again that have done a lot of damage in this lobby. They're the team that did the damage to TSM, forcing them to not be able to rotate in. And now they are in the center of zone, as are LTC, Dan. And what a game this will be for LTC.
Yeah, we've got several squads here in the last 5 who are trying to push themselves into top 5 for today's standings to get a good amount of points for the overalls. LTC, 7th at the moment on 36. They're only 1 point behind Oxygen and only 4 points behind Xset. Lanimals also on 33 points. They're only 7 behind Xset. So, you know, you can start to see a top 5 push from anyone who finds a victory here, but it is not going to be easily achievable. With 5 squads remaining, there's so much of this final circle that is being covered. If you make one wrong step, you are going to be punished by someone.
Well, Meat Lovers kind of control the zone at the moment. You can see they have the high ground. They're also pretty safe for quite some time. However, you're going to see Native maybe try and cause a few problems for them. As our Madness and Co down on that low ground. LTC also looking to swing. I'm pretty sure that Tech had a Kraber if I wasn't mistaken, but forget the Kraber. We've got the ultimate coming out now. The Sheila is in the hands of Albrelele, and he's looking to carve a path now for Lanimals.
It's a great opportunity for Lanimals, having the rampart available, being able to create the extra obstacles that you can hide behind, getting those walls down, but now they know there's a team that is very much weak below them, so they want to get involved.
LTC eliminated. Great push coming in there from Lanimals, and now they have a little place to play. They can wait for other teams to influence how this game is going to end, and Tech can certainly do that with the big stick right now. He's got 4 bullets to play with, 2 in the chamber as well, but can't connect with a no-scope. Native Gaming going to fall. 122 spray with that R99 is going to create some carnage, but the smokes are a problem, and it's all Lanimals now as they move in these final moments, and Albrelele with his R99 has been going wild.
Not only did it destroy the crypto drone, but also destroys the team below them, and it looks like it's only one last remaining player. Lanimals maybe give themselves the best opportunity to play at LAN with a big finisher to push themselves up the leaderboards here. It may only be match number 5, but points were essential for so many teams.
That was such an intense last game, such an intense closing game to today's action. It was something special today, I have to be honest. I was nervous coming into it, and I feel exhausted at the end of it, just because we were trying to follow so many different things that mattered so much to so many different teams. And I've got to be honest, at the end of it, I'm kind of thinking about the standing, and I'm still not 100% sure where some of these teams do stand. So for Complexity, though, got to be the story of the day, right? Complexity, big wins for them, looking like they've just rekindled something, you know, a little bit magical about that Complexity roster that we have seen in the past, and it's great to see them back in a good position down and putting up points on the board.
Yeah, they were first going into it, and because we saw all the teams around them also fall and not get far enough, Complexity will be our winners this week. Furia were not able to do enough to catch up. And you pointed it out, you were like, we've got all these teams who were in checkpoint, but wait a second, we've got 5 teams. Oh, they're in first, they're in second, they're in third. They all had to struggle to try and find their way into that circle. But as for Lanimals, they pushed themselves into the top 5 with that victory. That is massive when you talk about their chances and how many points they needed to get and how much points they need to get as they move forward to think about getting to playoffs.
We'll bring Tiff back in because the games are done, but we've certainly got some points to discuss. But Lanimals with what felt like a savior to their day without winning that last game.
Yeah, they came into this game 12th place overall. It's rather tough, right? It's a dire situation when you are looking to find yourself with a shot at split 2 playoffs. 22 points. Then they come out and they win their second game ever in Split 2 Pro League in such a dominating fashion. First off, that's impeccable. That's what you need to do. We had a lot of teams that we were having giant question marks by their names, and we were kind of like, this is make or break. This is do or die. You need to stand up, fight for yourself. And Lanimals coming out on top at the end, it was nice.
Yeah, I was impressed by them. I think the last push they made, I think it was onto LTC. They took that big fight, as we like to kind of coin it, that is the riskiest fight. But if you come out on top of it, you're usually in a position to win the game. But I got to give a shout out to Albrelelli. There's something, you know, when Alb catches fire, it's just like poetry in apex form. Like the R9, the sprays, he wasn't missing a bullet. The confidence, you saw, he's like, you could tell the comms were like, there's one player left. And before the sentence had even been finished, Alb was already flying off the rock with the R9 in his hand saying, I'll handle this. Don't worry. I've got it sorted. And it's great to see, you know, players with so much history making these big plays in endgame. And it also just shows how tough it is to win a game now in North America. It's pretty ridiculous.
It's also one of those days where I kind of wish we could hear those comms, right? Because we don't get to hear them unless we're listening. So I'm just like trying to imagine specifically what they're saying. So in my ears, especially that really scary Valkyl that we watched Verholst take to the skies to do that. My heart, I'm sitting there holding my breath. I'm like, just please. He doesn't have any shields. He lands. He's a literal sliver of health. Just no one. Let him get down. Let him hit a bat. Just let him exist for a little bit longer in this end game. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. We're going to queue up some highlights for you to watch, but there were a lot of moments when I was kind of checking into the broadcast that you guys were absolutely slaying, by the way. And at one point, Gaskin, TSM looked like they had some kind of trials lying in front of them when they were making that final rotation in. They had Xset to their right in checkpoint, Neat in front of them, Tech, that final boss that TSM had to get through. And as soon as I saw Zainu take down Hal in the elimination beat, I was like, oh brother.
Yeah, I think that TSM had a really rough rotation, as did a lot of teams actually, after they had to go for the risky Skyward dive. TSM comes so close to finishing in top 3, only 1 point behind Luminosity in the end. If Verholst had have survived just for 1 extra placement point, then that could have been the difference for maybe points to give them the real opportunity of LAN. Have TSM done enough today to kind of give us the confidence that they can get into one of those top 10, top 11 positions for LAN spots? I guess that will remain to be seen when we look at the overall standings, but that's the results. It's a 13 kill game for Lanimals that, as I said, pushed them into that top 5. And also shout out Meat Lovers, a big old game for them as well.
I mean, 26 eliminations between 2 teams, that's over a third of the lobby. It's kind of nuts. So good job to Lanimals and Meat Lovers. Forever Free Agent making a stand at one point, kind of hiding underneath a building south of checkpoint, being like, hey, we're just a duo, please let us live. But I mean, let's jump on over to the back half. TSM in 7th, Oxygen in 8th, and Onset. Talk to me about this, because the first thing I look at when I see this is it's not Complexity. They've had an amazing day.
Yeah, Complexity did enough. FaZe, though, day to forget, but you're, like you say, still a new team, still trying to work things out, had a great start, and the fact that they have had a great start means that this kind of day, as disappointing as it is, doesn't, you know, completely throw things in the bin for them. They've done a lot of work to get points on the board up until this point. And speaking of results, Complexity, Dan's maths, check out once again, never to be questioned. 64 points on top of the table. TSM, a couple of points, 1 more point though, they would have maybe taken that 3rd place away with wins. But LG, I mean, somewhere along the way on those games, the big KP games they were putting up forces them up into 3rd place.
Yeah, I really think it was LG's map number 5 with the 12 eliminations in 3rd place that really solidified them in top 3. But overall, you're right. Had Big E lived 1 team longer, that would have been a different story. But now we can see, how did that affect the season standings? Granted, FaZe up there, 55 points. Dark Zero, 49 points. But Xset, 4th place. Moved up from 5th to 4th. So overall, not a bad day on set.
Not a bad day at all. And I want to see the interesting spots, shall we say, on the next page, because we can see the top 10. If it finished right now, that's who would be going through to LAN. But this is the chasing pack, and look how tight it is. Dan, I mean, 30, 29, 26, 26, 25, 24, 24, 22, 20. It is not done for any of these teams yet.
Yeah, and you can see how the difference would have been made, you know, if it's just a 3rd place for TSM, or if they'd been able to hold on for 1st throughout that day as well. Luminosity, boy, did they need some points to put themselves a little bit further up when it comes to the points. Also kind of crazy that FaZe also still top despite the fact they've just had the day they've had. That's why when they had those amazing match days, we were kind of saying, well, FaZe are probably already qualified for playoffs anyway, and you can see why. Even with a day like today, they're still top of the table, which is kind of insane.
I mean, they did exactly what they had to do. So we talked about it earlier. Look, people have bad days. You just GG, go next. You bounce back in the next match day. But it's complexity that took the overall victory here today. And one of my favorite segments that we get to do every broadcast is shine some light on individual players that deserve that extra spotlight. So I'm excited to join that discussion for your Monster Energy MVP nominations. All right, boys, you know the drill. I'm going to start it off with you, Onset. I'm keeping my eye open. I'm curious to hear who you've got.
It's always me first. I feel like I'm put under the microscope first. I know, it's just how this thing works. But I mean, coming into today, so much pressure on TSM. We know that the pressure they hold from the community, from fans, from other teams as well. You know, it's a lot of pressure on them, and I had to go with Verholst. They got the job done today. It means that their season isn't over. It means that next week is just as important as this one. And there was a few really clutch moments from Verholst that really stood out to me. I think he was taking some really good angles. He was constantly outputting damage. And if he would have survived, like you're saying, somehow in that final moment of that last game, maybe that extra placement point could have been all the difference for them. But TSM, I think today, if you would have offered them this day, I think they would have said yes. It's not perfect, like I say, but it's good enough to keep the dream alive and keep them with something to fight for towards the end of the season.
Love that. I think that was a really, really solid MVP nomination. And Gaskin, I heard the scoff. I need to hear who is your MVP nom.
For two reasons. First of all, I do have a Monster Energy right here, and there is a promotion on the back for an Apex skin, and I have to redeem it in 4 days. I didn't realize that I've only got that long left, so I need to make sure that gets done. My MVP nomination is going to be for his Watson from Furia. I think I've given Furia a hard time throughout the start of this season, and maybe quite rightly so, because Split won one of the best teams that we've seen, or certainly back in the previous season, should I say, rather than Split 1. And then they dropped off a little bit when we had meta changes and we asked questions, are we ever going to see the Furia of old? Well, his Watson has led the charge. He has proved that it doesn't matter what meta we see these guys in, they can adapt, they can find a way. And some of the stuff he was doing today, some of the shots he was hitting, some of the positions, the angles he was taking, I couldn't say enough good things about him. He is a character. I think he is very much needed in this community, and he's going to be my MVP nomination for the day.
Look, now I'm just curious, what new challenge will his Watson be obtaining? What solo bronze to masters will we see? He's done it without helmets, with snipers only, with shotguns only. Hey, but all that aside, I want to talk about my MVP nomination for the day. It's going to be none other than Complexity's Luda. Look, we had so many questions that we were asking, and Complexity stood up and answered that in the form of Luda, who, by the way, I mentioned earlier on the broadcast, has had one of the gnarliest journeys to having a solidified team, a brief stint on tripods, joining MPS, going to London with ESA. Cody, as a sub on that team, have found and united themselves alongside Monsoon's IGL and have found so much success here. You look at the kills overall in the day, Luda's in third, but not only that, I really want to give an honorable mention to Cody, who has had 10 eliminations, 11 assists on the day. That's 21 kill participations. It's kind of wild, and I'm really excited to see Complexity find some success. But you heard it here, guys. That was our Monster Energy MVP nomination. And here's the deal. We had a really fun time talking about our MVP noms. And sometimes it works out when we get to interview an epic person. And honestly, I'm really excited because we all got to meet, well, I don't know, it was my first time meeting Monsoon in London at the playoffs. Let's go!
Yeah, baby! Yeah, baby! Yeah, baby! Yeah! Yeah!
That is the smile.
All right,
that
sorry,
I've been...
hey. Can you hear me?
Hey, what's up? I was going to say, that's
hey.
maybe not, you didn't actually smile in all of that, but I was going to say that was the smile I was looking forward to seeing back on your face because, yeah, what a day for you guys.
Oh, so excited, man. And relieved. Holy smokes. Yes, sir.
Talk us through it. Look, we know the vibes are real. We're so excited for you, but tell us how you're feeling right now. We saw it, but I just need to hear it.
Oh, yeah, dude. I mean, we had 2 weeks to go into this Pro League, and we had to play a third of all our matches back-to-back, Saturday, Sunday, being a new team.
So we didn't really have a lot of momentum going into it, but we worked hard and made some roster swaps too, and it ended up working out. And first place, you can't get better than that. Not for this week.
I would say, like I mentioned, it's great to see you with the spring back in your step. We had a little bit heart-to-heart conversation, I would say, in the green room, about what you were thinking, what your moves are going to be. And you said, I've still got something to prove here. I know I'm still one of the best in the world. I just need to, have that little bit of luck maybe going your way. Maybe find those two teammates that are going to put you into the position. How good does it feel to know where you were to where you find yourself today, back on top and proving, not only to yourself, but everybody else in the world, that Monsoon is still here and he's still one of the best in the world?
Appreciate it. Yeah, I don't think it was ever a question that we had the ability to, or we have the ability to. It's just whether or not we can convert and just make it happen, on game day. And of course, we still have a long journey ahead of us. This is a really good day today, but we got 3 more days or 2 more days in regional playoffs. So we just got to keep working hard, and hopefully it works out for us.
I mean, speaking of converting, match number 6, you had to just sit and wait and watch. Talk me through it, because we saw you when we joined your POV. You were coming from out of bounds. You arrived. You were snakes in the grass, and then obviously you just got stuck in that tunnel. What had happened in the game leading up to that point?
So we just didn't have beacon because we're running a beaconless character. But we were just chilling. We didn't have a lot of economy, so we wanted to utilize the crafter at the waterfall there. And we thought we could make the Valcult over from the building, worst case. Because we initially wanted to fight the team inside the tunnel. They had charge rifle 30-30 and alternator, despite having good armors. That's a pretty good fight for us, especially being Seer Bang. But we knew that Prowler team was probably going to look for that, because the walk into the left side spiders is pretty much impossible. But we ended up not making it over, and we kind of panicked, and then we ooped on the mountain. And as we fell down to go and fight the tunnel team, FaZe, I was literally sniffing them. They were right there, dude. And I'm so surprised they didn't hear me either, dude. Did you see that? I was literally looking over their shoulder, being a 4th on their team or something like that. And we were hoping that they would just fight in, knowing that it's isolated 3. If we win this, we're good to go. But unfortunately, they took a little too long, and we ended up getting all 3 kills of FaZe rotating in, but died there, which is not how we want to spend game 6, especially trying to hold the consistent first place. But game ended up going the way that it did, and Fear didn't make enough points to pass us. So yeah, we're good. Yeah. Woo.
Woo! I'm sorry. That's absolutely impeccable. And your breakdown of the situation, obviously on par, stellar, top tier. We had you on the deck in London. You were impeccable, so well loved from the Apex community. So I can only imagine how happy people are to see you succeeding, because we are happy. Everyone on this team is happy to see you succeeding. It's just been a joy. But do you have anything else you want to add? Anyone you want to thank in particular?
Oh my gosh, shout out Kimchi. Fantastic human being and coach. He just drives it all for us and takes care of so much, so he is an absolute beast. And shout out to Complexity too for staying with us. And I'm excited to keep doing it. Excited to get better and hopefully keep winning.
Love it. Well, I'm excited to watch you keep doing it and keep winning, and I hope to see you at Split 2 playoffs. It's going to be epic.
Appreciate it. Can't wait to see you guys too, whether I'm casting or playing or analyzing. Sorry, but yeah, I miss you guys. So
you never know.
Yeah.
Look, if you want to come cast with me, feel free, but you have some games to win still, so you're not done yet.
Yep.
All right, homie?
Yep.
You're not done yet.
Yes, ma'am.
Journey is far from
Appreciate
over.
it.
Thank you.
Far from over. Let's go.
Keep sending it. Thank you so much for joining our broadcast. I completely appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys. Have a good one. Woo!
I love that, man. It's great.
Yeah, why is Monsoon one of our most favorite people ever? It was such a joy to work alongside him in London, and even more to have him on the show, finding success, especially as Onset had mentioned it. It was tough, right? We were sitting there having some green room moments, and we were just breaking down a lot of the action that was happening. So rather fun, and always a joy to see players come out on top, especially Monsoon. Not biased at all, I swear. But we are not done. We have one more segment. We were talking about the players, we highlighted them, but now it's time to get down and discuss the utility. Sometimes it's weapons, sometimes it's gold knockdowns. Well, let's go ahead and talk about WD Black's What's in Your Pack. Look, Onset, I want to talk about you like first. I know I kicked it to you first, but this is because you had a really good call out.
This is Dan's turn. I always do that. Dan's doing it this time. I'm not.
Okay, fine. All right, Gaskin. Dan, this is your moment to shine. This is going to be epic. Even though Onset was like having some really cool WD Black callouts in the game, like talking about that gold knockdown resets, this is your time to shine, Gaskin.
It's good that you've gone to me as well, because I know that Onset can't do anything with these, and that's the Arc Star. I've never seen him hit one, whereas when they're in my hands, I connect with them every single time, whereas Mark just can't do it. If you have an Arc Star and you connect with them, you should be winning that engagement, even with nerfs that came through, the amount of impact damage and the explosion damage that it does, and also slowing just means that you are going to have one of the best fights after, and it's nothing more satisfying than hitting an Arc Star. And of course, I joke, Mark hits Arc Stars all the time because I'm the one who pushes the damage to make sure that we finish the fights. But yeah, always got to make sure you've got some in your hands. And actually, one thing that when I play with Onset, he always points out, hey, we need grenades, we need to have Arc Stars because they are so important. They can really change the tide. And Mark has made sure to drill that into me when we've been playing, haven't you, Mark?
Yeah. I thought you were going to have it. It was very interesting you chose to throw shade at me with just Arc Stars, by the way. I'll take that. Like, if Arc Stars is the worst thing that I do in game, then I would absolutely take that. But, I mean, one of the plays that stood out to me today with the Arc Stars was the LG play, where they were down in a 2v3, and I think it was Jaguares who managed to slide down the stairs and stick one of the players underneath them and in the building on Storm Point, and that completely changed the tide. So, what can happen, right? You hit a good Arc Star, smiles on everyone's faces but your opponents.
Look, anytime I get a rogue Arc Star and it sticks someone, I am just absolutely living in a moment. It's the best thing you can possibly do. But that's all they wrote for WD Black's What's in Your Pack. All right, boys, another series done and dusted. Just like, I feel like map number 1 was 2 minutes ago when we were asking ourselves all the questions. Will TSM succeed? Does the redemption arc start now? And now I feel like I've got even more questions, but the bubble teams, they are putting up a strong fight. So Onset, this you can handle first. Give me those final thoughts.
A very, very interesting day of Apex Legends. It was a very pressurized day for the teams, and I've got to say the ones who needed to perform that we kind of highlighted, I feel did. Now, did they do enough? We'll find out at the end of the season. Have they done enough to stay in the race to qualify, before those regional finals? Of course they have. And I think most of those teams will be happy. Furia, especially, Complexity back into the position that we know that they were always able to hold down. But I think for TSM, the arc has begun, but they cannot afford to slip up. And they still need to improve on the performance we saw today.
Definitely need to improve on the performances and keep that momentum moving forward. Gaskin, final thoughts on the day's matches.
I don't know if there's enough land spots for this region from what I've seen so far, if I'm honest. Doesn't seem like there's enough land spots for any region from what I've seen so far. It is so difficult to try and nail this down, whittle this down to just the amounts that are available, and it is going to be heartbreak, not just for the teams, but for the fans, for us, because there are going to be big names that don't make it, but it's just going to spur them on. Just as we heard Snipe down, it spurred him on. Just as you saw Monsoon, it spurred him on. These guys have come back with a vengeance, and it means that when we go into the next season, and we start to think about World Championships, it's going to be even more competitive. Love this game. Love the community. Love you all. Thank you again for having me. It's been brilliant.
I love that. No, watching you guys work, call all of the action, it's a joy. Not only does chat absolutely love you guys, the internet love you guys, I get to learn a lot from you guys as well. Let me hype you guys up for a little bit. So I appreciate everything that you've done here thus far today. And you're right. This was one of the gnarliest days of Apex Legends that we witnessed, but I think the regional finals are going to be even scarier.
They certainly are.
That being said, oh, no, they certainly are. Tell me more.
I feel nervous now, Tiff, because you gave 2 Englishmen a compliment and we don't know what to do with those.
Don't know what to do. I just panicked. Honestly,
it's kind of like I don't know what to do with my hands, a little Ricky Bobby edition. No, I mean, it's fine. I'll do it again. You guys absolutely killed it.
Okay,
you deserve a break. You deserve a break. Have a great night. I love you guys. There, I said it now. I feel like Wig. I'm so sorry. I love you guys. I love you, chat. You guys are amazing. No, have a good night. Well, rest up. You guys deserve it. And we will keep on keeping on. An epic day of matches, but it's just beginning. We just finished EMEA and North American Groups A versus C, but we have to turn our tides to the future. B versus C will be that next matchup. We are going to have, I believe, a 1-week break, but on match day number 6, happening on Sunday, April 9th, look forward to it because EMEA will be back in action, and all the questions that we've been asking for the bubble teams will be reuniting. Fire Beavers coming back loud and proud to the screen. I'm sure everyone is waiting. They are so interesting to watch, and I can't imagine to see them facing up against the likes of Aurora and just the action. Oh, yeah, that's right. Alliance, KCP. Group B in EMEA is kind of wild. I'm excited to see. 100 Thieves will also be joining us back in action. We talked to Onmu today, so guys, get ready. We do have a little bit of a hiatus. By that, I mean just a few days, but before that, all these teams are going to be scrimming, so make sure you keep your eyes out and open for any kind of little changes or strats that the teams are going to be looking to enact. And before we leave here, please make sure you check out @PlayApex Esports on Twitter and YouTube. And once again, guys, we celebrated 1 million followers on Twitch today, so congratulations to the Apex channel. And next off, guys, thank you so much to everyone that is watching. Genuinely, the Apex community could not be anywhere without the fans and the dedication that all of you guys are doing, the power rankings, everyone that's chiming in with all the analysis that I get to read. It's really been a joy. But that's all for me. Until next time, I'll see you guys then. Complexity.
Fury are marching towards a massive win in the final game here on World's Edge. This is going to be it, TSM. Comfortable victory for them in the end. The monsoon says